Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's Chicago Board of Education meeting. Today is August 22nd, 2018. We're holding today's meeting in the boardroom at 42 West Madison Street. I am Frank Clark, and on behalf of my fellow board members, I want to thank you for coming today. Our order of business is as follows. We'll start with honor and excellence. We'll go into the CEO report, followed by public participation. Then we will go into executive session and come back and start our voting process. As always, I would remind everyone that courteous and professional behavior is requested and frankly expected.
We'll proceed with the pledge, Mr. President.
I was trying to find that line. Thank you.
Thank you. Please rise. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The regular meeting of Wednesday, August 22nd, 2018 is hereby called to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Member Furlong?
Present.
Vice President Guzman?
Present.
Member Hines, Dr. Hines?
Present.
Member Ward?
Present.
President Clark?
Present.
5 members present. There is a quorum, and I would also like to recognize Dr. Janice Jackson, our CEO, Joseph Moriarty, our General Counsel, Dr. Latanya McDade, our Chief Education Officer, and Tony Howard, the Executive Director of Access and Enrollment. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, you want to begin with honor and excellence?
Thank you, President Clark. Good morning, everyone. We begin every board meeting by recognizing the accomplishments of our students and school communities. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Hiram Broyles, one of the longest-serving educators in Chicago Public Schools. Dr. Broyles is a native Chicagoan and has been the principal of Burbank Elementary, a level 1+ school, since 1977. He graduated from Dr. Broyles graduated from Shoup Elementary School and Morgan Park High School, so he's a proud product of Chicago Public Schools. He still lives in his childhood home, which his parents built in 1929 on Chicago's South Side. This makes for quite a commute for Dr. Broyles, who travels nearly 2 hours each way to get to Burbank Elementary in the Belmont-Cragen community. Dr. Broyles takes 2 buses and 2 trains to get to work each way, and credits the CTA with keeping him in such great shape. He arrives at Burbank by 6:30 a.m., and his favorite part of the day is greeting the 900+ students on their way into the school. These students are thriving academically. They have a variety of extracurricular activities to enrich their education, and they feel like their school is a home away from home. When he arrived at Burbank in 1977, Dr. Broyles was the first African-American principal in the school's history. In the 40 years since, he has succeeded in creating a school community that is warm, supportive, and diverse, and that gives students the resources they need to reach their full potential. As the district's chief education officer, I am thrilled that Dr. Broyles has no plans to retire. In fact, he just renewed his contract for another 4 years. Please join me in congratulating this outstanding CPS leader. Dr. Broyles, would you like to say a few words?
Yes.
Well, thank you. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here this morning. It was January 1956, 1 week out of Chicago Teachers College. And after my first day in a classroom with 48 14-year-olds, I wouldn't have given you 2 cents for my chances of making it as a teacher. Well, that proves that my mother was right when she said, most impressions, first impressions, are a big mistake. So the second day in that challenging classroom was better than the first, and day after day it became better. That was the beginning of my beautiful, rewarding career for the past 63 years. We've seen lots of changes in the Chicago Public Schools since then, but one constant factor throughout the decades is this school system's intense dedication to serving the needs of its children. Helping kids is my inspiration, and they are that is why I love what I do. Thank you, Ms. Jackson, Board of Education, the administrators, and my network chief, especially Chief Randall Jossman, for his inspired and positive leadership. At least he's gone now, but he was an inspiration. Thank you for the wonderful students, staffs, and parents of Burbank School, and to our administrative team who have come here today. Please help me greet some outstanding Burbank professionals who have worked tirelessly for our kids. And when I call your name, please say how many years you've been at Burbank. First, we have Susan Burns, the case manager.
You're short, 6 years.
Patricia,
Hopefully long.
Okay, Patricia Fortune, our literacy coach.
Since 2008, 10 years.
Antonia Navarez, our counselor.
2006.
And last but not least, Dwayne Timms, my assistant principal, who's been with us since
1980. He has 79 on this paper, but I've been there with Dr. Boyle.
it seems
I've
longer.
I've been with him for 38 wonderful, wonderful years.
Again, I thank you all for this honor. I'll never forget being here. It's really an experience, something that once in a lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's truly our honor. Before you leave, board members, any questions or comments?
No, I just want to say, I don't know what I can say, no, honestly, and I usually have something to say, but I'll just say thank God for people like you.
Yes.
And may you continue to give us another 60 years.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
very much. God bless you.
Go ahead.
I just also like to say, how much we think about principals a great deal.
Yeah.
And thank you for your leadership in this, and thank you for, your teaming. To have a family like yours who has a married team like that for the school is wonderful. And we're so proud. Thank you very much for that
Thank you.
mentoring and being so special to all the principals in Chicago.
I would only add, and you already addressed this by bringing your team, the kind of success that you've had and your longevity is only possible because you surround yourself with top-notch people. I did note that they're all females. What year did you become principal again?
And my first assignment was at Dulles in 1974.
And Chief, did I hear you say that he was the first African-American principal?
Yes,
You
at
mean- you-
Burbank.
At that school, not in the CPS. Yeah, I was going to go look that up because.
At Burbank.
Congratulations to all of you. Congratulations. And you still commute
Yes, he
by CTA? I don't even know what to say to that either. But it's a mark of dedication and commitment that we truly appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Broyles, for your leadership, and to your entire team. We appreciate and value your leadership.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Also today, we are pleased to present the Board of Education with 2 resolutions. The first honors the contributions of Alan W. Mather, our Chief of College and Career Success, who is retiring after 32 years of service to Chicago Public Schools. Prior to coming to Central Office to lead our post-secondary work, Alan was a teacher, an assistant principal, and perhaps most notably served as principal of Lindblom Math and Science Academy. While at Lindblom, Alan received the first ever Stanley C. Golder Award for school leadership from the Golden Apple Foundation. His accomplishments since joining central office are too numerous to count, but include advancing competency-based learning, early college STEM schools, and computer science for all, as well as Learn, Plan, Succeed. Alan is a gifted educator and administrator who has spent his career ensuring that every child at every grade level receives individualized supports and opportunities that will keep them accelerating towards success. He will be remembered as a dedicated public servant who proved time and time again that students will meet and exceed the expectations we set for them. Please help me congratulate Alan Mather on his exemplary career. Alan, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you so much. It's no surprise to me that the district has been recognized nationally for the incredible gains that have been made, because in this mission-driven, data-informed district, we've focused on the right things, on what's best for students, on principal leadership, on how teachers access the materials we have, on what teacher voice and student voice looks like in a district. I don't need to tell you, members of the board, that you have the most incredible leader that the district could have imagined in Dr. Jackson. And her team is incredible, and will continue to move this work forward in ways that are going to keep Chicago recognized as a national leader in this work. You know, I'm leaving this place to go into something else, but I love that I'm leaving here loving the district, loving the students, loving the teachers, understanding how much I've learned from everyone. So thank you so much.
Board members, comments?
I'd just like to say it's been a thrill and a joy to know you and these decades together and working, and your contributions and input have really made a difference. Thank you so much.
And the same thing, it's been a pleasure to be a colleague of yours. And I know wherever you go, you'll still be with us. So congratulations, and look forward to hearing from you and calling on you if we need you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Any other comments? Alan, as you leave, you remind me a bit, not the appearance, just for what you've done. When the Egyptian kings, the pharaohs, built the pyramids, I don't know that even they thought they would last for thousands of years. The work that they do would stay behind and be viewed by so many for so long. The work you've done here at CPS will frankly outlive both of us, and we thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
President Clark, can I make just one quick comment? First, I want to thank Alan for his years of service and also years of friendship. Alan was the first academic chief that I selected when I became, I'm trying not to cry, I'm the chief education officer for Chicago Public Schools, but our partnership and friendship began years before that, both of us serving as principals of selective enrollment schools in, low-income areas with the predominantly Black and Latino student body. And so we bonded on so many things, most notably this belief that high expectations and high levels of support can make anything possible. We both, as principals, worked hard to change policy. And so when I had an opportunity to work in that role, he was the first person that I thought of to come and partner with me. I just want to leave the group, although we couldn't announce all of his accomplishments, the thing that I value the most about Alan is that he is absolutely brilliant. Anyone who knows him knows that about him, and they know that he thinks outside of the box and that he always puts children first. And for that, I will be grateful for our friendship and your time here at the district, and congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
I hope I make it to 3.
Thank you so much, Alan. On behalf of Chicago Public Schools, we thank you for your commitment and service to Chicago's children. And, you know, I just have to add that you will still have to ride the unicycle at the Bud Billiken next year.
He tried to write it today. I said no. It's too formal.
Our second resolution honors Karen Lewis, who recently announced her retirement from Chicago Public Schools. Karen served the Chicago Public Schools community for 22 years, first as a high school chemistry teacher and then as president of the Chicago Teachers Union. She has been a tireless advocate for our city's educators and spent her career promoting the need for educational equity in Chicago. We are grateful to Karen for her contributions to our teachers, our students, and the entire community of Chicago Public Schools. Regrettably, neither Karen nor her husband could be present with us today. We hope to present her the resolution at a future board meeting. Finally, I want to welcome our students and our families and our staff back to school. Classes start in less than 2 weeks, and everyone at Chicago Public Schools is getting ready for a successful school year. Teachers will be coming back on Monday to organize their classrooms, fine-tune lesson plans, and participate in professional development to help them improve their practice. I've been fortunate to be able to attend some of these professional development sessions throughout the summer, and I'm always impressed by both the passion and commitment of our outstanding educators. I've also dropped by some of the back-to-school bashes and was happy to see students catching up with their friends and talking about the first day of school. I want to thank everyone who has helped put these events together, especially our family and community engagement team, who did an exemplary job. Because of their hard work, students were able to receive school supplies and get up to date on their immunizations, while parents were able to get their questions answered for registration before the start of the school year. When students return to class September 4th, many will be enjoying new investments. Some will be starting school for the first time in one of our 3,700 new pre-K seats. Others will be challenged academically in new IB, magnet, and classical school programs. And many will see physical changes happening in their schools, including the building of annexes, the rehabbing of science labs, and the upgrading of technology. Several of our high schools will have new post-secondary counselors to help high-need students create solid plans for their futures, and nearly 250 students will have new full-time social workers and special education case managers to help our most vulnerable students reach their full potential. And thanks to the restructuring of our CPS networks, we can now better support the unique needs of both our elementary and high school students. We have added new networks, 14 through 17, to provide targeted support for our high school students. This is the latest addition to our high school strategy, which is aimed at ensuring that all students in grades 9 through 12 have the facilities, the resources, and supports that they need to be fully prepared for success in college, career, and civic life. It is my pleasure today to announce the leaders of our new high school networks. Network 14 will be led by Laura Lamone, who started her career as a CPS teacher in 2004. Laura most recently served as the principal of Von Steuben, where she took her school to new levels of achievement, including earning level 1+ status in the school quality rating policy during the 2015 and 2016 school year. Randall Josserin, you heard Dr. Broyle say he was leaving Network 3, but not leaving CPS. He will be moving to Network 15. He was the former chief of Network 3 since 2014 and will now lead the high school network, Network 15. The schools in Network 3 under his leadership saw marked improvement under his leadership, and we are confident that he will achieve similar results in Network 15. Megan Hogarth will build on the momentum she achieved as chief of Network 11 when she takes over leadership of Network 16, the new high school network. Megan is uniquely suited to this role. Her time with CPS includes helping to open 2 successful high schools and creating a college-going culture that saw significant jumps in GPA, freshman on-track rates, and early college credentials throughout Network 11. Finally, it's my pleasure to introduce Eric Pruitt as the new high school chief of Network 17. Eric comes to us from the Houston Independent School District, where he served as an area superintendent who provided training and support to 34 school principals. But he is no stranger to CPS. Eric began his educational career with our district and has served as a teacher, principal, and deputy chief for Chicago Public Schools. Please join me in congratulating the new leaders of our new high school networks. I would also like to take a few moments to acknowledge a few additions to the CPS leadership team. After her exemplary work as a deputy chief, Julie McGlade is being promoted to chief of Network 1. Prior to joining the network office, Julie served as the principal of Garvey Elementary School, a Level 1+ school, and mentored principals and principal residents through the Chicago Leadership Collaborative. Julius Lawson is also being promoted from deputy chief to chief of Network 11. His previous successes include building an outstanding leadership team that helped increase achievement levels at Pullman Elementary School for 4 consecutive years. And we have Shanitha Parks is another outstanding deputy chief who is currently being promoted to chief of Network 12. As a principal, Shanitha succeeded in maintaining Level 1+ status, obtaining one-to-one technology, and achieving a 95% + attendance rate. Finally, I'm pleased to introduce Nicole Milberg, who will soon become the new chief of Network 6. As an independent schools principal, Nicole led Mitchell Elementary to be ranked among the top 15 public schools in Chicago by Chicago Magazine. These new leaders and the investments that we are making in our schools will contribute to the culture that has allowed CPS students to make record-breaking gains nationally. I look forward to working with our teachers and our school leaders to help our students build on that momentum and maintain our district's place as a leader in urban education. This concludes the CEDO report, and I will now turn things over back to President Clark for CEO Jackson's report.
Before Dr. Jackson speaks, we read we announced the resolution for Karen Lewis, who could not be with us today. I also wanted to acknowledge that Alderman Brookins, who has joined us, I believe, for the purpose of supporting and recognizing the contribution of Karen Lewis. In my experience with Karen, I found her to be a completely committed, dedicated educator, and frankly, a tenacious leader. She's very much respected. Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, President Clark. I just have a couple of quick updates, very important updates. So last week, we know that former Assistant U.S. Attorney and Illinois Executive Inspector General Maggie Hickey provided Chicago Public Schools with the preliminary report to help us build on the comprehensive plan of action to protect our students. We asked Ms. Hickey to conduct a top-to-bottom analysis of CPS's policies and procedures, and the recommendations that she has provided will make our commitment even stronger to protect our students. I'm pleased to say that we have already begun to implement many of these steps that are outlined in her report, and we're also committed to implementing the additional recommendations that were new to us as part of a roadmap in our comprehensive plan to protect our students. Just to recap, one of the first things that we did is to establish the Office of Student Protections in Title IX. That was an early recommendation from Ms. Hickey, and this group will have a multi-pronged focus on both training teachers and staff, ensuring compliance, but most notably investigating student-on-student abuse allegations. We also transitioned the role of investigating adult-on-student allegations to the Office of the Inspector General to ensure that there are no real or perceived conflicts of interest in our investigative process. We've also improved and centralized the background check process by instituting a recheck of tens of thousands of employees. We've committed to ensuring that all of those individuals that have access to our students are checked prior to school starting back, and we look forward to providing an update prior to the start of school to both the board and the public. We formed a new partnership with the Chicago Children's Advocacy Center to train all of the employees in Chicago Public Schools. That training has started. It started with the law conference back in July. We also had the Children's Advocacy Center train principals the past couple of weeks, and principals will be required to provide training to their entire staff starting next week when teachers and the rest of the employees return to school. I'm also pleased to announce that after having conversations with community members and various stakeholders and taking some of their advice, we will be providing training to parents through our 13 parent university sites. Many of these adults volunteer in our schools, and we want to make sure that they are properly trained to identify sexual abuse, which is also why we are announcing a citywide campaign around awareness. So school principals will receive information and collateral to post in their schools to ensure that everyone is aware of their rights, and also that they know who to contact should they expect any kind of abuse, whether it's student-on-student or adult-on-student abuse. As part of our comprehensive plan, we're also working to strengthen the policies and procedures that we have in place for students. In June, the board approved and strengthened the policy on reporting child abuse and neglect. We also codified the policy around grooming. Today, we're asking the board to approve policy that clarifies the volunteer policy for our schools. We're also rechecking the backgrounds of all level 1 volunteers in our schools to ensure that no individual has access to our students that has not gone through a rigorous background check. In addition to checking their backgrounds with law enforcement, we will also be looking at their records through DCFS to make sure that there's nothing in their background that precludes them from working with students. In addition to that, we're also working to strengthen what happens in the classroom, which is why we have updated our comprehensive sexual education curriculum to make sure that students have the tools that they need in order to recognize inappropriate relationships and sex abuse. As a school system, we are grateful for Maggie Hickey's report. We think it is comprehensive and straightforward. We look forward to continuing to make good on the commitments that we've made since this story broke. And we also look forward to the second phase of implementing the new recommendations that were pointed out. To ensure that we are not leaving any stone unturned in addressing gaps in all of our policies, today I'm going to ask our Chief Information Officer, Phil DeBartolo, to go through a presentation on our acceptable use of technology policy. The proposed changes that we are asking the board to consider today will help ensure that we are keeping pace with technology and new forms of communication, and will open up an important dialogue between the district and our school communities as we work to develop guidelines based on the acceptable use of technology policies framework. I will now ask Phil to walk us through the presentation.
Good morning, President Clark, CEO Jackson, members of the board. My name is Philip DeBartolo. I currently serve as Chief Information Officer for Chicago Public Schools. I'm here today to walk through the proposal to replace the existing staff and student acceptable use policies for our network and computer-based systems. These proposals are the culmination of review and dialogue from a committee that included school-based representatives, ITS, law, communications, and the offices of student assessment, computer science for all, and personalized learning. In addition, the policy elements of the policy were pressure tested with network chiefs and members of senior administration. Very briefly, today we will touch on the drivers for this change, the elements of the existing policies that presented marked opportunities for improvement, detail on the nature of the modifications for each policy, and our plan to socialize the proposed policies with schools, students, and parents. Finally, to close, I'll provide some insight as to the tactical approach for identifying existing communications platforms purchased at a school level and our plan to certify that each has the requisite level of information security to persist in the district. The vision for change is very much rooted in our core values. We seek to ensure academic progress by providing teachers and students with relevant technology guidance and growth opportunities through the support of a district digital citizenship curriculum. We seek to foster a higher degree of integrity through the clarification of acceptable online behaviors and increased monitoring. We strive towards increased financial stability by leveraging economies of scale to identify and promote district-wide platforms where we're currently purchasing at a school level. This slide really tells the story. It's been quite some time since these policies have been refreshed. The biggest opportunity for improvement was to implement provisions that outline the use of mobile devices and social media for staff-to-staff or staff-to-student communication practices. An additional across-the-board opportunity was to update the technical language in each policy, given the brisk pace of technological evolution. For some perspective, the last time the student acceptable use policy was updated, there was no iPhone, BlackBerry was the hottest mobile device on the market, and Facebook didn't exist. Finally, and perhaps most important, we saw an opportunity to converge strategy with the new Office of Student Protections in Title IX in beginning to further define the support avenues available to our students in the event of inappropriate online behavior. Before taking a look at policy-specific changes, there are a number of updates that we applied to both policies to ensure a standard approach. Both policies have provisions for delegated authority, which will allow for an agile application of updated guidance without going through board process. We expect to garner additional guidance through ongoing dialogue with various constituent audiences, obviously including school staff, parents, and students. We want to be able to pivot quickly on that feedback and provide as fast a service as we can. Both policies required updates to the list of definitions. The existing constructs did not account for technology terms that we consider standard fare today. For example, there's not anything in there for personally identifiable information or social media, so we needed to kind of update the lexicon in each policy. Finally, both policies required updates to the list of unacceptable uses and asset management language to ensure congruity with recent changes to the asset management policy. Staff policy updates. The major changes to behavioral guidance in the staff policy revolved around the use of cell phones and social media to interact with other staff, students, and parents. With respect to mobile devices, in general, the changes for staff on the use of mobile devices revolves around the use of those devices for texting students. The proposed policies generally prohibit the use of personal or board-issued cell phones for texting students, with exceptions for students in grades 7 through 12, who may receive text in the event we have parental consent and the text supports an explicitly approved program or educational purpose. Bulk messaging to groups of students is permitted as long as it's from a CPS-certified system. With respect to social media, the proposed policy outlines that staff cannot use personal social media to conduct CPS business. Further, the proposed policy also prohibits communications with students from personal or non-CPS social media accounts. The proposed policy also has provisions for the use of CPS social media under guidelines established by the Office of Communications. For example, provisions for CPS social media sites that represent a school, a classroom, or an educational team are acceptable, but predicated on their use to address reasonable instructional, educational, or extracurricular goals. Touch briefly on student policy updates. Students are prohibited from calling or leaving a voicemail on a personal cell phone of a staff member or other adult who works in a school. Students are asked to communicate with school staff and other adults via the messaging platforms that are provided through CPS. For certain programs, text messaging will be allowed, but the program has to be approved by the CEO and meet all of our security standards, and of course, there has to be acceptable parent consent. If using email for communication, students must use their CPS email account to engage staff or other adults that work in the school. Students may use CPS social media outlets to communicate with staff and adults that work in the school. However, the proposed policy outlines that students shall not communicate with staff and other adults in the school via that staff or adult's personal social media account. Rather, they are permitted to leverage the aforementioned school, class, or program-based CPS social media account to do so. Further, students shall not accept the request of a CPS staff member or other adult who works in the school to be a friend or contact on any staff's personal or non-CPS social media account. Additionally, and perhaps most importantly, the policy's final provision details how and when to engage the Office of Student Protections in Title IX. To go further, we fully expect to maintain an ongoing dialogue with that office as the input we receive from students will be invaluable in helping us to hone the guidance as we move forward. So, a number of things that we're doing to socialize this change. There is no finish line to this work, and are maintaining long-term information security posture. The policies, the technology platforms, and most importantly require constant care and feeding to keep pace with the rate of change. As such, the most critical factor in our success is to offer meaningful, continued education opportunities for staff, students, and parents. Creating a safe technological space will require all of these groups working in concert. So, relative to socializing the change, the first thing that we're going to do, pending approval of these policies, is to launch an acceptable use policy guideline site. The guideline site is going to be very important for us in that the policies themselves are technology platform agnostic. So we don't explicitly name Twitter or Facebook or Google in the policies, because that almost inherently puts us in a spot where the policy could be dated. Rather, the policy provides the process bedrock upon which we will leverage acceptable platforms. The primary piece on the site, in addition to providing the policies themselves, some frequently asked questions for all of our constituent audiences, is to produce an acceptable platforms list. So we will remark in each of these areas, whether it's email or mobile devices or social media, exactly which platforms are supported by CPS staff, which platforms are acceptable but not supported by FTE staff, and explicitly pointing out those tools that are not to be used in a school setting. In addition to the policy guidance, we'll be sending out a series of emails to start to socialize the change with our school leaders, students, and parents. And finally, we plan to hold a series of webinars in the fall to begin our first level of socialization. Moving forward, we certainly plan to take advantage of other opportunities, and we'll talk about those in a subsequent slide. But this is how we're going to ensure that we get the outreach in the first 30 to 60 days of school to make sure that folks are familiar with what we're doing. I've also included a communications calendar in the deck that outlines some of our communications plan for our features each month of the school year. You will note that there are tremendous touch points between the acceptable use policies and our larger information security posture. So we're going to be kind of interspersing those two topics as we send communiques to schools and students each month. Student and parent outreach. Our first, for students and parents, obviously, our acceptable use guidance website is going to be the primary platform for providing the largest bank of information. We also plan on communicating via the student and parent portal to make sure that we are exercising every communications channel that we can to make sure that this message is getting out to all of our audiences. The intent is to establish a student voice committee after the start of school, and to also participate in a presentation to the CEO Student Advisory Council. Students are very much affected by this policy, and we absolutely want their input. The goal here is not to obstruct education. The goal here is not to disrupt operation at a school level, but to make sure we have the adequate protections in place for our students and that staff know how to best leverage technologies to maximum efficiency. With parents, obviously, we'll be launching the AUP guidance website. Also plan on working with Frank Bielecki on a series of LSC roadshows to speak directly to LSCs and parents about the practical implications of these changes. And as well, plan on, which is not noted on the slide, we'll be working with family and community engagement to engage parents through CPS parent universities. Finally, a question that I've gotten a lot on these policies is, once we enact them, what about schools that are going to be immediately out of compliance? The goal here is not to be punitive. With respect to communications platforms that may already be in use in the district, the intent, pending policy approval, is to survey each of the schools to get a good sense as to what school-level communicative platforms they might be using that we don't have district-level visibility into. Once we have categorized and logged those platforms, we will take each through an information security audit. Those that pass the audit will be added to the acceptable platforms list on the CPS AUP guidance website. Those that do not pass the information security audit will be subject to improvement, or we will cease using the tool. However, it is important to note that if we do find a tool or a solution that is in use at a school that does not make muster relative to information security. We are not just going to yank the cord. We will work with the school to make sure there's a smooth transition to a viable alternative tool that has passed our information security audit. That concludes my comments on the policy, and ready for any questions.
Board members?
I do have one. So great presentation, our briefing, and as well this morning. But, and I know this is formal, and you've got to have all this structure on it, but will there be that informal thing where at the beginning of the school day for a series of months, not of course every day, but that there's a dialogue with the teachers and the kids about here's what's acceptable and here's what isn't for me to do and for the principals to do and for you to do with us, and the use of personal devices, so that we're not just leaving it to people to read something, that we've actually had that informal dialogue that probably is most of what we do as parents with our kids seems to be more effective?
No, that's a great question. I mean, in effect, putting these things on a website is, in effect, a passive communication, right? So we want to be able to engage. We have not defined the specific rules of engagement for how that happens in a classroom. We plan on taking direction in partnership with our Chief Education Office and the Office of Teaching and Learning. The other important touch point here, Board Member Furlong, is that we also plan on partnering with the aforementioned groups and making sure there is an updated digital citizenship offering for our students at some point this year. So it's absolutely in the plans, but I can't tell you that we have a specific date or a protocol for how the communication takes place in the classroom as yet.
I just wondered, like, if 30 days after school started, if we were at the school on one of our normal stops and we asked any of the kids, have you had any dialogue, what they would say 30 days in, not day one, but 30 days in or something like that. Would they say, oh yeah, we've had dialogue, our teacher or this teacher, or, you know, that was my hope.
It's most certainly my hope that that dialogue takes place at the beginning of the year.
Right.
I can tell you that I would be more than happy to come back to board in 30 or 60 days to report on our progress, as well as give you a list of any of the applications that we have taken through a security audit that either made the cut or did not.
Thanks.
One more comment, if I may. Thank you for all of your conversations regarding this. It certainly is a complicated topic. And are there other similar policies elsewhere that we could look to, or is there a place that you've been able to find that's been most helpful?
Elsewhere within the district, or
no, outside of the district and suburban areas,
sure.
or in other states.
Right, so we petitioned the Council of Greater City Schools. I have a network of other chief information officers that we correspond with and have kind of floated some questions to them to see what they're doing. We've looked at some of the bigger districts, New York, LAUSD, Miami-Dade, Broward, to name a few. I think we also have some information from Cincinnati and Philadelphia. But we've also looked to see what those districts are doing. And we use those as a guideline, but not a prescription. Obviously, CPS is a unique district, and we have certain things that we need to push that may not be priorities elsewhere. So I can tell you by and large that we are fairly consistent with the other districts, if not a touch more prescriptive at this point.
Yeah, I know for myself as a principal early on, 9/11 changed whatever happened forever as far as our technology was concerned, and kids going from beepers to telephones to other kinds of things at that point. So thank you for this work on this, and I'd be interested to hear that the word has gotten out to parents and to students in particular.
I'd be very happy to come back and log that.
Thank you.
Yeah, just underscoring that the training and outreach piece is super important. In addition to that, I'd like to know a year in, like this time next year, like what have we learned, what changes have we made, what tweaks have we made? I mean, we went a long time without updating the policy, and I know this is something now that we're going to be doing a little bit more just in time. We're going to be able to be a little more nimble in terms of how we collect information, tweak it. I'd love to know sort of, again, maybe a year from now, like as we're going into the next school year, like what have we learned from this process? What are some tweaks? What are some potential, policy improvements that we need to make, or other process improvements that we need to make?
And there will absolutely be an inventory of those changes. As I've stated, that this will require constant care and feeding because the pace of change is so brisk.
Right.
So that's something I can absolutely provide.
Great, thanks.
I would only add, Phil, first, as you stated, this is long overdue. I know in our briefings you pointed out, as you did in your presentation, that our current policy doesn't recognize cell phones and Facebook, for example, which tells you they're fairly dated. There's so much with social media. It is such a means of communication, particularly with today's younger people. To have an understanding of what's appropriate and what's not is essential. What I'd like to see, and other board members have made reference to this, we need periodic reports on how this is progressing. As we go through this audit, there will be compliance issues. They're going to take a little time, but this is one where the board should be well informed, and I'm sure you'll take care of that.
Oh, absolutely, sir. And that is an expectation that we have. We will absolutely find things that we're going to need to re-examine or potentially move aside. So I would expect that there will be plenty of information to provide in that regard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
President Clark, that concludes the CEO's report.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. I just have one announcement, the one I make at every meeting, although probably I should consider stopping and finding something new to say, because so many people are using our website, which is very good, and you use it to set up meetings with board members and to address issues that you have. But it is just a very excellent tool, and I encourage all of you to use it. And I'll repeat the website yet again, cpsboe.org. Okay, Madam Secretary, please share the details for our next board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next board meeting will be held on Wednesday, September 26, 2018, at the CPS Loop Office. Advanced registration will open at 10:30 a.m. on Monday, September 24th, 2018, and will close on Tuesday, September 25th, 2018, at 5 p.m., or until all slots are filled, whichever is first. If anyone has any questions about this process, please contact the board office for our assistance. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, let's proceed with today's public participation session. Madam Secretary, please share the rules for public participation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speakers, please listen while I provide directions for public participation. I will call your name and number when it is your turn to speak. When you hear your name, please immediately proceed to the staging area to the left of the podium and check in with our board office staff member. We have Eric here to assist. You will be lined up in the right order. When it is your turn to speak, proceed to the podium and state your name. After you state your name, I will then start the 2-minute clock, which is visible to all in the audience. I would also like to note that there is a timer on top of the podium for the speakers to see. When there are 30 seconds remaining, the color will turn yellow, and when the 2 minutes are up, the light will turn to red. Please immediately take your seat when your time is up to allow for the next speaker to begin. Also, for anyone who plans to stand in support of a speaker, please be aware that the only walkway in the boardroom is behind the podium. Therefore, if you could kindly make a single file line and stand as near as the railing as possible, this will still allow people to pass through the area safely. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. And if I may start with Local 73, we have the co-trustee, Deanne Palmer, who wishes to address the board, Mr. President.
We also have a union representative here, don't we? Jesse Sharkey. I thought I saw him in the audience.
Mr. Sharkey?
Good morning. I have some Local 73 members, CPS workers who would like to join me. A little bit more than 2. So can you guys stand as close to this thing as you can? As close to this.
Thank you, Ms. Palmer.
Thank you. It's time for CPS Board to see us. Today, we're invisible no more. We are to be seen. Special education classroom assistants, bus aides, custodians, security officers are demanding that Chicago Public School do what's right for students. We are workers that provide needed services to special needs students, make bus rides safe for students, clean the schools, and ensure the security of our students. It simply isn't possible for quality education to happen without us. Staffing levels must be increased so that all students learn in a clean, safe environment and have the support they need to succeed. We are fighting for a fair evaluation process, one that doesn't bypass seniority. School employees with years of dedication and experience must be compensated a fair wage. Increases must reflect what we lost in our last contract due to the 2016 wage freeze. Wages aren't just about money. Many workers are also parents of current CPS students. When parents have a good job, their children have the stability at home that they need to succeed in school. CPS has placed over 140 proposals on the table. Most of them are harmful to our workers. We demand that CPS negotiate in good faith with us, respect us, recognize the value of our work, and do good by the students. If CPS decides not to do that and stop the stonewalling, these kind of activities will continue. And make no mistake, the fight will continue. Thank you.
Thank you
Ms.
very
Palmer.
much. Your impressive show of support from your members is truly noteworthy. It's certainly my understanding that negotiations are underway, and I assume that the negotiations hopefully will resolve, if not all, most of your issues, but they are underway. And I expect there'll be a reasonable result and compromise. But you're valuable, very valuable. The very fact that your members took the time to come down here and stand with you tells me that you're a strong union and you support one another. And that's to be respected, and I do.
Would you like me to respond?
Not necessarily, but you said that so nicely. If brevity is helpful, but go right ahead.
So the response is that we have a showing of our members. There are many more members who are quite concerned about the negotiating process. There's 140 proposals on the table, and quite frankly, the people that are at the table are saying they can't answer. They have to go back to the board. They can't do a meaningful negotiation with us. We're asking that you send somebody to the table who can address the issues that are at the table, and that they don't stonewall and block our ability to reach a fair contract.
Thank you very much.
Jesse, would you like to address the board?
Yeah, actually, while we're here, I just want to say for the record and for everyone here that the Chicago Teachers Union stands in solidarity with the members of SEIU 73. The dignity and respect of people who work in the schools is paramount. It's at the heart of what we do. And you can't make a division between the people who live in the community and go into work in the schools and the values of the community itself. And so solidarity here. The teachers union is also going into a contract year, and we all expect fair treatment at that table. So that's the first thing. The second thing I was just going to say is that for the second time in the last 3 months, I found out about an initiative involving staff and the acceptable use policy with social media from a reporter. A reporter reached out a couple of days ago with details of the briefing that you guys got today. And frankly, stop it. It's not that there isn't some smart stuff in the policy and, frankly, some overdue stuff. It's that is the people who work in the schools who teach every day, who are PSRPs, who are SICAs, who are clinicians, social workers, have real insight and valuable insight as these policies are being formulated. And I hear you saying, well, we're going to adjust the policies, we based on input, but that deserves to be in the ground floor. And again, I've mentioned this before, but I ask you, for a commitment to include members of the teachers union in the formulation of policies that the people of the teachers union are going to have to be the ones enforcing and carrying out in the schools. Is that fair?
Dr. Jackson, do you want to respond?
Yeah, it is fair, which is why we reached out to your office last week to share this information in the policy, and it was also widely distributed among CTU leadership. So I'm a bit unclear about the allegation that we didn't attempt to reach out. Second, we did make a choice to update the policy and per Phil's presentation to update some of the language issues, things that we felt were really important, but we also are creating guidelines. And so the guidelines will really be the driving force between the do's and don'ts, and we would gladly invite teachers to contribute to that. So the ship has not passed on that, but I just wanted to clarify that we did make an effort to inform you about this prior to the press.
Well, I appreciate that. I must have missed it. I maybe got caught in my spam folder like Maggie Hickey's stuff, but
Right.
you know, and we need to talk more about that. And I just on the sort of issue of communication, I will also just note, and this will be the last thing I talk about, is that there was a report which was recently leaked, a Kids First report about underutilization in the district, and you know, it had a whole number of bombshells in it. I think things that we're going to wind up talking about, and everyone in the school who works in the schools are concerned about, that there are 60,000 available seats in top-tier schools, according to this report, and something like, you know, in a tremendous amount of excess capacity in high schools. We're concerned about that. And we're concerned about it because, you know, it's something that we were saying years ago when CPS was on a charter building binge, and now we hear reports that, like in the Pullman neighborhood, for example, there's move to expand a politically connected charter school that's connected to ISB President Reverend James Meeks. I don't think you're voting it this month, but we definitely hear reports that that's happening. There's speakers in today's meeting talking about expanding charter schools on the west side in the Austin neighborhood, and this is going on at the same time. There's overcapacity in the public schools, and frankly, at high quality and thriving public schools. So don't undermine our schools in that regard. Listen to us when we give advice. Frankly, we want to be involved in good faith on the question of how to stem sex abuse. We want to have meaningful and effective policies for helping to engage students. Staff need to communicate with students, right? We do. You know, I know social media can be trouble there, but so include us on that. Give us the reports. We want the reports on the cleanliness and the HVAC, rodent, roach, you know, a series of problems around that. We want to see those reports, and because the success of the school venture is our business too. We care deeply about the project, but we intend to be heard, and we intend to demand fair treatment.
Did that conclude your comments?
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Your offer to be helpful and cooperative is appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Together we rise. Together we rise. Rise up. We're gonna rise up today. We rise up. We'll be back. We'll be back. Together we rise. Together we rise. We'll be back. We'll be back. Together we rise. 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 We'll be back. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will proceed with the speakers list for today. Our first speaker, please, will be speaker number 47, Alan Ballard from Access Living, followed by speaker number 1, Deborah Haas, and speaker number 9, Jenny Biggs, please.
Good morning. My name is Adam Ballard. I work at Access Living here in Chicago. I'm also a CPS student. I have students in Cooper and Skinner North in this coming school year. Access Living is here to comment on CPS's need to do more to protect students with disabilities specifically. The majority of students with disabilities, there's 52,000 students with disabilities in the system, and the majority of these students are poor students of color, 41% having parents with limited English skills. Historically, CPS has dealt with budget shortfalls with austere budgets that are balanced by cutting staff and services. This has led to violations of special ed law that were recently very publicly highlighted by a historic investigation by ISB. In May, ISB announced support for a monitor to supervise an overhaul of CPS's special ed services following an investigation that concluded that CPS has violated a broad swath of federal laws and regulations for special ed services for students, including both of my children, who both have IEPs. Recently, the Tribune's chilling account of sexual assaults on students by other students highlights the stark need for better positioning and training of special ed staff on this issue throughout the district. In more than half of the cases that the Tribune compiled, either the victim or the perpetrator was a student with disabilities. This highlights failures by CPS to protect and supervise these vulnerable children, which again includes my children. Of the 36 victims involved in the cases reported by the Tribune, more than 1/3 of the victims were students with disabilities. But in CPS, less than 14% of students are students with disabilities. So sexual violence affects students with disabilities much worse than their non-disabled peers. The steps that have already been taken are a step in the right direction, but there's no plan of how to address this higher rate of assault for students with disabilities. And it's unclear if this newly launched Office of Student Protection will ever engage in protecting students with disabilities in a meaningful way.
Mr. Ballard, can you please conclude?
Yes, students with disabilities are more vulnerable, and the district needs to take specific steps for those students. CPS must establish affirmative procedures to protect students with disabilities. And in addition, this newly launched Office of Student Protections also needs to have a mandate and resources to advocate for students with disabilities.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Ballard.
Thank you.
Our next speakers, please. Speaker number 1, Debbie Haas, followed by speaker number 9, Jenny Biggs. We will then call speaker number 2, David Wu, 34, Angela Lynn, number 6, Sieglin Lynn Seward, 25, Tange Lim Seward, 55, Corey Dixon File, and 24, Wayne Garrity.
Good morning, I'm Deb Haas, parent of 2 recent CPS grads, and here today with Raise Your Hand Action. At an August 7th Illinois House Committee subject matter hearing on student data privacy, 4 CPS parents spoke about breaches where students' private information was shared with thousands of people, data collection from ed tech products that parents were not made aware of, and negative experiences with Summit Learning, which will soon see large-scale expansion in CPS, courtesy of funding from Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, LLC. We hope you will go to our website to hear the concerns of parents and data privacy experts, since none of you attended. We're deeply concerned about the CZI partnership and the general lack of protections at CPS, a lack I experienced when my own family was solicited by a science conference that's featured in the New York Times article I shared about data harvesters getting students' data from the College Board and others. In Springfield, Raise Your Hand Action pushed for a data privacy bill, HB 1295, that would allow parents to see what's being collected on their children and correct it if it's wrong. CPS and EdTech lobbyists opposed the bill and instead offered legislation that would require little more information than districts already must reveal about contractors they do business with. Such opposition is pretty concerning when CPS has had at least 6 data breaches since early 2015, with tens of thousands of students' personal data improperly disclosed and in some cases posted to the web. We've been asking whether students would get new IDs since the most recent data breach, and I understand letters may have gone out yesterday, and only learned CPS was working on new IDs through its testimony at the state subject matter hearing. After quite a runaround, one parent received an email saying CPS anticipated issuing new IDs by the start of the school year. You exposed personal contact information and student ID numbers 2 months ago, and families are still waiting for the remedy. Meanwhile, I still want answers to my questions from May. What will CZI, the companies it controls and those it invests in, be getting from our students? What personally identifiable information will our children be asked to hand over? EdTech is an $8 billion industry, and there's a lot of money to be made from commercializing our students' data, including my own children's. As parents, we should own this data, not EdTech companies. We want full transparency, security, and privacy. CPS must do better. Put safeguards in place now.
Thank you, Ms. Haas.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, please, Jenny Biggs.
Good
Good morning. Jenny Biggs, CPS parent of 3, raise your hand. Lots of big ed news last week. Maggie Hickey released her report on sexual misconduct at CPS, which was startling in the level of systems failures it revealed. The data from Go CPS came out, which the public was told was a single source of truth about where parents want to send their children, with the line we've heard from previous CEOs before school closures ramp up, which is parents are voting with their feet. It was also revealed that CPS has asked Kids First, formerly New Schools, formerly the Renaissance Fund, to do a report on the state of CPS schools. The public wasn't told about this, and it was leaked to reporters. There's a common thread through all of this, a lack of transparency and accountability at this district. Some info that was left out of the Go CPS PR release was that parents never had a say in the CPS high school design system. Parents were never asked if they wanted a well-resourced community school, or instead, if CPS should embark on a half-baked portfolio system of school choice that now includes devastated neighborhood schools for many communities where quality options take precedence over equity. In case you missed it, CPS moved forward with the latter, dangling shiny objects in the faces of parents, setting up SBB, and creating a school rating system that is not an accurate reflection of an individual school. Further, you've never made yourselves responsible for providing a high-quality, equitable education for every child. While parents were given a common single app to fill out this fall, parents did not create the mess that is the CPS high school system, and we certainly never voted on anything that happened at this district. Parents would not have voted for our current CPS high school system, which is basically CPS choosing which schools to invest in and which ones to neglect. Our two asks: do not repeat anything like you did with the 50 school closings, and create a real facilities plan with real community members and parents and students.
Ms. Biggs?
I will conclude. Regarding the Hickey report, why has no one been held accountable for not protecting students? Why are the lawyers who interrogated students running the new $3 million department? In what ways will you prove to the public that you know how to put systems and structures in place to put kids and not the mayor's image first? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Biggs. Our next speaker, please. Speaker number 2, David Wu, followed by Speaker 34, Angela Lin.
My name is David Wu. I'm a CPS parent, Chinatown resident, board member of the Coalition for a Better Chinese American Community, and a member of CPS's Near South High School Steering Committee. For over a year and a half, the coalition has been advocating for a high school for the greater Chinatown community that extends from South Loop through Armour Square, Bridgeport, and into McKinley Park. Throughout this area, there are excellent neighborhood elementary schools, but the entire area lacks a neighborhood high school. Our community is assigned to high schools outside of our area, and most years, few or no students choose to attend those schools. At various board meetings, we've asked community members to testify. Current high school students have talked about the distances that they travel, not 2 hours like the principal earlier. Some older adults have shared about the lack of a nearby high school, that the lack of a nearby high school was a problem as far as the 1950s. CPS has decided to convert NTA into a high school for the near South. Everyone expects it to be a great school, as 5 1+ rated schools will be feeding into it. But there have been concerns about boundaries and capacity. In the last month, CPS added Pershing Elementary to the entitlement boundary, which has already included South Loop, NTA, Drake, Haynes, Ward, and Healy. At recent CPS community meetings, Bridgeport residents west of Halsted and south of 35th Street, who are in the Armour, Holden, and McClellan school boundaries, asked to be included as well. Everyone has a good case, as there has never been a neighborhood high school in South Loop, Armour Square, or Bridgeport. In addition, there are numerous small and large-scale residential developments currently underway or planned throughout the boundary area. The current capacity of NTA will not come close to meeting the demand for seats. CPS should begin working with the community on long-term plans to address the high school needs in the near South. We would like to explore using recently approved capital funds to expand NTA and are open to other possibilities as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wu. And our next speaker, please, 34, Angela Lin.
Hi, I'm Angela. I'm the community organizer for CBCAC, Coalition for a Better Chinese American Community. So it's my job to hold the town halls and engage the community. So I want to talk about the community engagement process. So CPS organized a community input meeting last Tuesday, August 7th, but the Board of Ed meeting, which is today, it was only 2 weeks after. So that gives community members only 2 weeks to decide after knowing about these new boundary changes and talking about it and hearing what other communities have to say. Only 2 weeks to decide what to do with these new changes and what's best for ourselves and other neighborhoods. So a well-led town hall in this kind of historically disenfranchised, low-income, working class, limited English proficiency immigrant community takes usually 4 to 5 weeks to plan. The community members are super hard to engage. They won't even come if you, or a lot of people, you know, when they try to engage in the schools, they don't come for $10 an hour paid positions. It's just a different sort of culture that is very influenced by sort of the communist rule in China. So we wanted to plan a town hall to gather community input on the sudden decision of giving $70 million to the Near West, even though we were told that there was no money to build a new high school for Chinatown, Bronzeville, Bridgeport, and Canaryville. But there just wasn't enough time to really come up with a fully engaged community response to this. And we do need more time to fully process the proposal because the portions of our community most impacted by the plans are just really not used to this democratic process. So really we would just like, even though it is our job, we would like for more time to process this and plan it and really engage the community in a meaningful way. So give us more time to engage our 7th and 8th grade parents and all those other who will be impacted by this decisions for the next 10 years before you decide our community's fate. Thank you.
Our next speakers, please. Speaker number 6, Siglinde Lim Seward, followed by 25, Tunge Lim Seward, then 55, Corey Dixon File, and 24, Wayne Garrity. Please state your name.
Sieglinde Lim Seivert. Good morning, Board of Education members. Thank you for providing the space and time for us, residents of the Gap, to speak. We are grateful for the opportunity. My name is Sieglinde Lim Seivert. I'm a parent of 3 elementary-age biracial children and have lived in the Gap since 2005 as a homeowner. Both their father and I are products of public schooling, and we firmly believe in universal access to education. I am speaking today because of the Gap's continued interest in our community to have access to the new high school program at Near South High School, currently NTA, as we have been working closely with the city since 1990 to arrange our community access to a top program. On November 4th of 1998, we met with the city and arranged for the plan for this to happen, and we, the Gap Bronzeville, committed to this through a tax contribution, TIF. Beginning in 1998, tax revenues from multiple capital improvement bonds of 1998, totaling over $38 million, were designated to NTA, which is very close to our community. NTA is 2 miles from the furthest point in our community, and we are ready to call it our high school. We are aware of the time we've spent, the use of CDB funds, and multiple meetings around zoning and boundaries will have been worth it as we help make the school a success. My neighbors and I have been invested in supporting public schooling. We have been a part of the process from the start and are ready to help with this transition to be a success. We have seen and continue to witness how divisive the closing of one school to open another can be, and we want to help with this transition to be as smooth as possible. We are ready to help with the transition plan and assist in any way we can as a new community forms, bringing neighborhoods together for a new community school. We greatly respect the challenge of those who will need to change schools and imagine this is difficult on many levels for students, parents, teachers, and staff, and also want to help this transition. I thank the board for the commitment to public education and your work to bring more options to the South Side for local quality high schools without needing a selective enrollment high school.
Ms. Everett?
Okay, pardon me.
Hello, my name is Tongi Lim Seivert. Dear Board of Education, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk and present today. I'll keep this short and sweet. I'm a father of 3 children living in the Gap. I'm a physician. I'm the type of physician who you don't want to see. I'm an oncologist. I work on the South Side. I serve the South Side. You know, I love Chicago. I grew up in a rural area. I went to a public school, and I'll make 2 points. The biggest thing that I appreciate my parents for is allowing me to have a good education. It made all the difference for me. It made my opportunity to come to a big city to rise. And for me, the most important thing as a parent is, I want to provide that same opportunity or better to my children. And there's no negotiating about this. This is incredibly important, not just to me, but everybody in the Gap. We care deeply about the community, the vibrancy of this community. And this is a second point I want to make. People make a difference. People make all the difference. Politicians are good and they make good things, and administrations help. But in the end, they're most successful if they harness the power of the community of people who care, who participate. We will help this school succeed. We will participate. We will invest. We have deeply vested interests, and I would like, to show our support for including, the Pershing school boundary in the Near South High School, the former NTA. I think it will be most successful if we work together on this. And again, I'm thankful for this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker, please, Corey Dixon-File.
Hi, my name is Corey Dixon-File, and I come before you along with my neighbors from the Gap Community Organization to ask that children living within the Pershing school boundary be permitted guaranteed access to the proposed Near South High School. I am part of a multiracial and interfaith family. My daughter is biracial, and we have been very fortunate to have found an area in the city that is welcoming and diverse. As several other families we know have fled to the suburbs for a better education, we committed to being a city family in order to give our daughter a vibrant cultural and holistic upbringing. Here are reasons why children within the Pershing boundary should be granted guaranteed access. Bronzeville TIF funds and support from residents living in the Pershing neighborhood boundaries were used to build NTA, about $38 million. Children who live in the Pershing neighborhood boundaries have Phillips as their neighborhood high school, the same high school that the South Loop children have within their boundaries. By not including Pershing children into the guaranteed access high school boundaries, they are being excluded from high-quality options for schooling. Children in the Pershing neighborhood boundaries rarely attend Pershing Elementary. They commute to different CPS and private schools across the city. Our children would benefit from being able to attend a high school with other area residents to build a sense of community and belonging, and to not have to travel upwards of 45 minutes each way to attend school. The percentage of children who live in the Pershing boundary is relatively small. Guaranteed access would not burden the high school with an influx of many students. This has been researched extensively by CPS demographers who have stated this will not cause overcrowding. Children of the Pershing neighborhood boundary live a short distance from the new high school. I live under 1.8 miles from NTA. Aside from being a mother, I'm also a psychotherapist. I witness firsthand with my clients how stressful the selective enrollment process is for children. The negative impact of this stress runs deep, physically, emotionally, socially, and mentally, and well beyond the school years. I do not want to rob my daughter of a childhood by having to put her in test prep courses at age 7, just in the hopes of being admitted to selective enrollment school.
Ms. File, can you please conclude?
Yes. I urge the school board to look beyond any issues of race, class, or socioeconomic status. We are a strong, committed, dedicated, and working parent community, many of whom could not be here today. However, we do have a petition, which I passed out to the board earlier, with 125 signatures of neighbors who are in full support of including Pershing children in the guaranteed access for the new high school.
Thank you, Ms. File. Our next speaker, please, 24, Wayne Garrity.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board. My name is Wayne Garrity, and I'm a member of the Bridgeport community. I've raised my children, and they have decided to raise their children in the neighborhood. The education there that they have exists today with the same children. There is not a quality neighborhood high school for our students of Bridgeport to attend. I have seen firsthand the neighbors, students go above and beyond to fight for seats for selective enrollment and become unsuccessful. These students come from working families and cannot afford private education. The only option is Bridgeport is to attend the neighborhood high school, Tilden, which is what I graduated from in 1967. It has a long history of underperforming schools. This high school is also extremely enrolled has only 5 students now in the area. The need for quality high school in Bridgeport exists for 20 years now. Our students at Holden, which I graduated in '63, they should be able to figure my age out by now. We deserve a little more. We deserve better, President Clark. Yes, I'm a little nervous. I haven't spoken anything like this in many years. We'd like to have a little better education. And yes, I ended up as a plumber, so I didn't do too bad. But I had good teachers, I had good mentors, and I hope you will help us also. And you have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrity. And our next speaker, please, speaker number 4, Sydney Galladay.
Good afternoon. My name is Sydney Galladay. I'm the principal of John B. Drake Elementary School, where we're one school, one family, and one community committed to learning. I'm here to speak in favor and to thank you for the capital improvement funds that will provide our school with an additional social worker as well as a brand-new health center that's for the school and the community. So we are happy about this partnership, which will allow us to provide enhanced holistic supports for the students. Construction will be completed the second week of October, and this is an open invitation to the board and to CPS leadership to attend our grand opening. We look forward to seeing you there, and thank you on behalf of John B. Drake Elementary School for all of your support. Our community is indebted to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Galladay.
Thank you very much. Arnie, did you take note of that?
Our next speaker, please, Martin Ritter.
Good morning, members of the board. I'm a former history teacher in CPS, and I have to fix something that, for the record, President Clark, you said that the pharaohs built the pyramids during your speech.
If you're going to give me a history lesson, let's do
All
that.
right.
Let's do that offline.
Book of Exodus kind of disagree.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. That being said, on Friday in the afternoon, a report came out in the press that Kids First created a report for you guys about school capacity, et cetera. But who is Kids First? Do they put kids first? Well, they were formerly known as New Schools for Chicago, and I believe, President Clark, you were the chairman of this organization at one point. They were before that known as the Renaissance School Fund. The Renaissance School Fund is made up of members of the Civic Committee of the Commercial Club of the City of Chicago. These are corporate people, CEOs mostly, many from the suburbs, disproportionately white, all of them very wealthy. Many of them did not go to CPS. Their kids don't go to CPS. They don't participate in local neighborhood school issues very much, although many of their members have lobbied the mayor in recent years to close neighborhood schools. Recently, they've pooled their money together and their influence, and they seem to be able to produce reports that end up on your desks very quickly. This is the exact opposite of real community engagement that CPS parents have been asking for years. What also many of the people in here don't know is that many members of this group contribute heavily to the mayor's reelection fund, including last week when this report came out, $100,000 from the Illinois Network of Charter Schools and some of its bundlers directly to the mayor's reelection fund. That's how it works in the city of Chicago. This needs to change. These reports and these organizations should be filing correct lobbying documents. They have political action committees.
Mr. Ritter, can you please
I'll
conclude?
definitely conclude. They have political action committees. Some of them have 2 or 3, and some of them donate to people that are working against you, like Governor Rauner. So why are we working with them to come up with reports of the capacity of schools? And when this organization was created many years ago, its sole purpose was to fund the creation and expansion of charter schools. You can't put kids first by putting neighborhood school students last.
Thank you, Mr. Ritter. Our next speaker, please.
President Clark, can I respond to you?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I just want to clarify regarding the report, not the commentary on the organization. We did work in collaboration with Kids First. Our demographics team also played a role in compiling this report. So I just want to be clear. It also is not a secret report. We have followed my leadership philosophy and the things that we have committed to. And instead of releasing a report without proper community engagement, instead we have socialized this report in dozens of meetings with over 105 different organizations including CTU, as well as Raise Your Hand. So we have shared this information publicly. We do intend to announce it appropriately as the district sees fit, but I just want to challenge any notion of this not being a transparent process. We are trying to do what people have asked us to do, which is share the report, get feedback, change the report as a result before we put out this information, because it's really important for us that people believe in the accuracy of this report. And that's what we have done in dozens of community meetings, and we intend to release that information shortly at the appropriate time.
Thank you for that clarification, Dr. Jackson. And you gave us a lot of detail and factual information, but we cannot forget people like conspiracy theories. So, okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before Ms. Lozama
I took you a
proceeds,
second to catch on to that. Go right ahead.
give me one moment, please. Let me just call a couple of more speakers. Our next speakers after Ms. Lozama will be speaker number 7, please. Francisco Flores, followed by speaker number 11, Gilbert Martinez, and then we will have speaker number 8, Edwin Locke. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Daisy Lezama. I come here as a parent, as a community representative, as well as a community worker. I work in a community social service organization. We provide services for many children and young people in Chicago, the National Youth Advocate Program. I lead the Center for Adolescents and Families. And I was part of a couple of those meetings where the report that you were mentioning before was shared. And I have, first of all, to request that you share that report with us sooner rather than later. And then that the school's annual regional analysis report is shared in a way that it is easy to understand for regular people. It's important. We like numbers, we like charts, we like different things, but when you come to a school where the level of education and understanding in many instances, and not demeaning anyone, is not as high, it's very difficult to understand what that means to me as a parent. And I said as a parent because when my daughter was going to school and she graduated from public schools, I had to make choices. My child couldn't go to the school in the community because the level of quality was very low, and I didn't want that for my child. But I had choices, and I was able to do research and find information that many parents don't have access to, or even if they know, they don't have the ability to make those choices because of economics, because of transportation, and many other things. So I really would like to encourage you as the board members and the CEO of the Chicago Public Schools.
Ms. Lozama?
Yes. To release this information, make it not only available, but accessible to people. So we can really use it. And I am dying to get my hands in that report because I will use it so I can plan services for the communities that we work in. I don't want to fight you. Okay. I just want to get the information.
Thank you, Ms. Lozama.
Thank you for those thoughtful comments.
Our next speaker, please, Francisco Flores.
Good morning, President Clark, distinguished board member, and Dr. Jackson. My name is Francisco Flores, and my 3 children all attended Carlos Fuentes Elementary Schools in the Avondale neighborhood. Fuentes is a charter school and a part of the Acero Schools network. I'm very happy with Fuentes. The school has a strong connections with families and the community. It's very obvious that the principal and teachers care deeply about the students. One of the Fuentes teachers was over the news last month because a story she told about her law for her students in her schools went viral. Because of her passion for the job, the school has received attention from all across the country, as well as a donation of books and supplies. People respond to her enthusiasm for her work, and I feel fortunate to be able to choose to send my children to a school where the teacher and staff care so much. I believe every children in Chicago deserves to go to a great public schools, and I have even traveled to Springfield to advocate for a school funding, but I have also been frustrated in the past knowing that the charter schools are sometimes faced with budget caps the middle of the year that had impact children's education. I hope CPS is able to ensure the funding is fair and stable for all Chicago's children. These schools are assets to our community and deserve to be properly funded, and our children are assets to the city and deserve the right to qualified education.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Our next speaker, please, Gilbert Martinez.
Good morning, President Clark, distinguished board members, and Dr. Jackson. My name is Gilbert Martinez, and my daughter, Douglas Liliana, is a second grader at Carlos Fuentes Elementary, which is part of the Asego Schools Network. It is a great school with a caring staff and strong sense of community. They really work to instill confidence in the students, as well as love of learning. Excuse me. Thanks to the enthusiasm of first grade teacher Kimber Bermudez, many people are now aware of our school and have seen how much the teachers and staff love their students. I am happy that my daughter is able to be part of such a close-knit school community. Charter schools allow parents to have a choice in where to send their children. However, even though charter schools are public schools, in the past they haven't received the same levels of funding as the other CPS schools have faced unexpected cuts to funding. I hope that as you finalize your school budgets this year, that you commit to treating all public school students fairly so that all public school students can receive the quality education they deserve and need to get ahead in life. We have a good school, but like many other schools in Chicago, with equally funding, we know we can be a lot more better with the funding you guys could provide to us.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Edwin Locke. As he approaches the podium, I'll call speaker number 12, please. Monique Lloyd, followed by speaker 13, Natasha Erkstein, followed by 29, Natasha Dunn. We then have 48, Jonathan Williams, 57, Cassandra Bogan, and 59, Megan McCaffrey Morris. Mr. Locke?
Good morning. My name is Edwin Locke. I'm the proud principal of Peter A. Reinberg Elementary School in Chicago. I'm also the parent of 4 children, 2 former graduates of Lane Tech and 2 current students at Taft High School. My wife is also a teacher in CPS, and we are ingrained in CPS. I'm here to say thank you to the Board of Education, Janice Jackson, Mayor Emanuel, Alderman Vegas for investing in capital improvements at Reinberg. Currently, they're building a playground at Reinberg, and next summer we are expecting to have well-needed masonry and roof repairs done in Reinberg. Our auditorium seats have been refurbished. Upgrades in our internet and Wi-Fi are going to be happening soon too, so thank you very much. I'm also looking forward to working with the the Board of Education and facilities to make sure our mobile classrooms are being refurbished as they are in dire need of repair. As I mentioned before, I'm a proud parent of 2 students currently at Taft High School, and I want to thank you as a parent for investing in the new field that's going to be going in at Taft. They play football, and I know that where they practice and play some of their games, it's not the best of facilities, and it scares me that they may be injured, but I want to thank you for that. Also, my neighborhood school, Preston Elementary, is receiving an addition right now, and that is creating quite a buzz and excitement in the neighborhood, and I appreciate that as a principal, as a parent, as a community member here in Chicago. So thank you very much, and looking forward to working with you over the projects at Rhinebeck School. So thank you.
Thank you, Principal Locke.
Thank you very much. Again, Arnie, I know that your list is very, very long, but obviously all those road trips you're taking are making a difference.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next speaker, please, Monique Lloyd.
Hello, everyone. My name is Monique Lloyd, and I strongly believe that every child deserves the opportunity to get a good education, which is something that the charter public schools are providing for the children of Chicago. That is one of the reasons why I chose to send my child to Learn. My child attends Learn Charter School Excel Campus, located at 3021 West Carroll Avenue, located in Chicago, Illinois. She has been a student there for the past 4 years and recently has started her 5th year there. While attending the Learn Excel Campus, I feel that her educational needs and emotional needs are being met. If I have a problem, they hear my voice and don't just put it under the rug. School is a place where a child goes every day, where they get to learn new things and get exposure to a whole world out there. It is a place where one should feel safe and not have to worry about any dangers taking place. Learn has provided that environment for my child each and every day. By receiving an education, it opens up the doors to so many opportunities. It allows a child to dream, to imagine, to take chances, and to be all that they can be. By attending the charter school, a child will be equipped to deal with the next stage in their life. That is why it is so important that we have charter schools to keep the legacy alive for the future generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lloyd.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Board President and Board. My name is Natasha Erskine. I'm a parent and local school council member at King College Prep High School. I'm here today to express my deep concerns with regards to school stability at KCP. A Level 1 selective enrollment school serving majority Black, poor, marginalized scholars, and unfortunately some of them identify as homeless. We've invited the board out to walk through the school building because we have a high need for capital improvement, in which we were left off of the recent considerations for things that we need in terms of an HVAC that's decades old. It's currently, the temperatures in the building right now currently exceed 90 degrees because we have a part on order that we do not know. It's got a long lead delivery time. So if there's anything that you all can do to help influence the delivery of that part, particularly immediately, but if not by the beginning of the school year, we definitely appreciate it. We sweat through too many meetings. I heard Dr. Jackson say earlier, a high level of support breeds a high level of expectation. That's real. I'm looking forward to a high level of strong support to be extended to Ms. Severe, our new principal, who I believe to be greatly overwhelmed and unprepared to lead this school. As a local school council parent rep and a very involved parent, I observed across 2 meetings, 2 registrations, where she has a lack of preparedness, professional decorum, and courtesies. Specifically, there was a recent comment made during a local school council where students questioned the new student dress code. The principal, who you all just said most of them have been trained, made a reckless comment to blame victims and associate that with promiscuous dress. I know that that was not included in your recent training, but that was said less than a week ago, and it's triggering for adults in the room as well as the young women in the room. It was reckless. So when we talk about Sable schools, we've been
Ms.
here
Erskine,
before.
can you please
I'm wrapping
conclude?
up. Yes. We spoke here in several meetings. We've asked the board to come out to the school. Please walk because we need things inside the school, and we need a strong and supported school that starts from the top down. Students are, and our parents are coming to us with strong concerns in terms of the school stability and a school where staff admit they're not ready for day one. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Erkstein. Our next speaker, please.
Hi, first I would like to thank McDade for coming out for meeting with us about 3 weeks ago. So, as I suspected, we are here again. I am deeply concerned about the stability of King College Prep around safety, security, and education equity. Ms. Sevier, the newly installed principal at King College Prep, has hit the ground running, establishing policies forcing families to pull their children out of King. In fact, since she's been at King in July, we've lost almost 40 students. In an LSC meeting held last week, freshman parents expressed their concerns about the abrupt changes, the school hours, bell schedule, and punitive policies. One parent tearfully pleaded with her to reconsider changing the hours back because she is unable to pick up her son at 2:59, and that one of the reasons she chose King was because she knew he would be able to stay until 6. King is the only selective enrollment school that has a 94% black student population and now has the shortest building hours. Essentially, our students do not get the luxury, like other selective enrollment schools, for students to arrive before 7 a.m. and stay until 6. That is not equitable. Another parent who has a rising junior and a straight A student expressed her concern about moving away from academics to a punitive discipline system and is considering pulling her student out. And it gets worse. At a time when CPS has had to reconcile for the betrayal students and parents felt around the sexual abuse cases within our schools, Ms. Sevier made a comment that rescinded your apologies and left parents feeling insecure about our students' safety at King. Is it a part of CPS's response protocol to stop students from dressing provocatively so that they don't get abused by teachers, students, and coaches? You stated that principals have been trained, but this horribly insensitive comment was made only 6 days ago. I am deeply concerned that our students' safety, security, and student safety and security, and the principal's ability to report abuse and create an environment making students feel safe to speak up for being groomed or abused. Principal Sevier's lack of empathy and inability to recognize rape culture and victim blaming is extremely disturbing and need to be checked. Parent to parent, would you feel comfortable with a principal like that in your child's school? I am requesting that you hold Ms. Sevier accountable as a result. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Our next speaker, please, Cassandra Bogan.
I'm Cassandra Bogan, and I'm a parent. And it was actually my daughter that was addressing Ms. Sevier at our last LSC meeting when she simply asked the principal to please reconsider some of the pending changes that were being made, which included the dress code. My daughter simply said that she didn't want King College Prep to become a dark place and that she wanted it to remain with a happy vibe. In response to what my daughter requested, Ms. Sevier responded by saying,
So thank you for that. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Mr. Reynolds shared that students do have the freedom to use their cell phones during the lunch period. So that hasn't been taken away. The dress code, as we already stated, there have been sexual abuse cases throughout the city of Chicago. These things are put in place why should we allow students to dress provocatively? Come on.
So we do ask you, Dr. Jackson, is that the new protocol, that we're blaming the young ladies for what's happening? Thank you.
Our next speaker, please, Megan McCaffrey Morris. Last call. Moving on to the next speaker, Speaker 48, Jonathan Williams.
Thank you. Thank you for an opportunity to speak again. I want to extend a special thanks to Chief McDade for taking the time a few weeks ago to speak with us. I'm the LSC chair at King College, and I'm really not surprised to be here again. I've come many times to talk about the challenges that King has been facing for a long, long time. I want to linger on the question that two of my fellow parents and LSC members raised, which is it the policy of CPS that eliminating provocative dress of young women through dress code changes is an effective deterrent of sexual assault? I mean, and I can stop if the answer is yes. I don't have to ask any more questions or make any more public comment.
That's not the policy.
Thank you. Is it being trained? Is it being communicated? Because that was the message that was given to our students. The loud wow, as I sat next to Ms. Severe, it immediately triggered me. It immediately triggered me that she would say something to that effect. Because words matter. I don't get a chance to talk much about what I do. I'm really fortunate. I'm a product of public education. I travel around the country and the world as a consultant. I have upwards of 200 people at any given time that report into me. I'm responsible. I'm accountable for what happens on those client sites. Clients like BMW or Apple or Cisco or Bloomberg, when they have a problem with any of my people, those come to me. And with so many people, those things do come to me. There's been many friends and colleagues that I've had to fire because of either inappropriate comments or inappropriate action that they've taken. At the end of the day, the trust that I establish with my customers, that I'm the keeper of that trust. And if I'm not able to take effective action when those things happen, then I risk not only the trust that they have, but I risk the entire account and other people's jobs. This goes beyond a question of simply, we'll promise this won't happen
Mr.
again.
Williams, can you please conclude?
This goes beyond whether or not this will happen again. Yeah, I will. I'm accountable. There's no trust at King. I would ask that you, as the accountable party, take accountability and step in, please.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Chief McDade, do you want to respond at all?
Just to reiterate what Dr. Jackson stated, that is not a part of the policy. We do have training taking place with principals, and this is just highlighting the need to engage further, just in proper protocol in terms of how we address our young people in voice as well as action. You invited me to come out to your LSC meeting. I will come out to your LSC meeting. I'll have Willie share with me the dates and make it a point to come to King. We are also putting in place some supports for the principal at the request during our meeting, so I took that seriously and am taking the steps to put in the supports for the principal as well as the entire school community, students, and as well as the staff. Some of the things that you brought to my attention, we are investigating regarding some of the other topics that we discussed, but I do want you to know that King is a priority. We are paying attention. I will personally be supporting and coming out and being vigilant in what's happening at the school to ensure that your students do receive the quality education that they do deserve in an environment that is conducive not only to teaching and learning, but is safe and supportive. So I will continue to engage with you. I ask that you work collaboratively with me, that we work together to support the leader that you do have in place that's there now. And I think that together we'll be able to make some changes at King for the positive. We've already started, yes. And I'll follow up with you.
Actually, Mr. Eastham behind you is waiting to get more information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next speakers then will be speaker number 15, please, Sherry Coleman, followed by speaker number 16, Christine Jabari, and speaker 30, Dana Schwartz. We then have speaker 17, Mark Shaw, and speaker 18, George Chapin. Please state your name.
Hi, good morning. My name is Sherry Coleman. I'm a mom to Sandia Coleman. She's a rising ninth grader with Down syndrome. She's here today with me. She does not have an appropriate high school to attend come this September 4th. We are one of the many families who didn't have a positive experience with Go CPS. We are caught in a system that was stripped of control of their special ed services and concurrently had to trial a new high school application system that was not clear or supportive of students with special needs. Sandia attended Drummond Elementary, where she got what she needed, she was included, and she thrived. She wants to continue her education and does not have access to what she needs. CPS can give it to her. While applying to high schools, Go CPS did not work for us. I found that the Drummond staff, who are excellent in many ways, were not well informed of the new system. I asked for help from the school admin, and they had no knowledge of how Sandia could be placed in an appropriate school for her. We chose North Grand based on their ability to meet Sandia's IEP and the proximity to our home. She didn't get her choice, and she was placed at Clemente. This is not an appropriate school for her. It just had 4 special ed teachers cut, does not have an inclusive or a cluster program, and has no students like Sandia, according to the case manager there. Drummond staff assured me we could still apply to round 2. When it came for round 2, we were informed that Sandia could not apply because she does not have NWA scores. This was a surprise to me and the Drummond staff. So I requested mediation to resolve the issue. The CPS lawyer, also head of due process, was adversarial instead of an advocate for Sandia. She was unprofessional. She was not willing to let me visit programs or discuss what would be an appropriate, least restrictive environment for my daughter. She abruptly ended the meeting. Then I got a call while I was in the car to offer a placement. I listened. I wanted to tour the school or speak to the principal before deciding, as I had no knowledge of the school and it was not in my neighborhood. I was told that I had to make a decision then and there.
Ms. Coleman, can you please conclude?
I requested more time. They rescinded the offer by, I quote, CPS felt it was not in their best interest to continue the mediation. I always thought that it was CPS would do what was best for the students. I am involved with the special ed community, and it is clear from the reports and the discussions from parents that CPS is not serving our diverse children. The CPS due process lead is not at all in touch with the district's new vision of the great customer service. Last sentence. Sandia would love to start her freshman year with her peers at a school appropriate for her, and currently she is not enrolled in a CPS high school.
Chief McDade, is this something you could look into?
Yes, yes, I will follow up on this.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Elisa?
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next speakers, please.
Christine Jabari. Good morning, everyone. My name's Christine Jabari. I'm the principal of Philip Rogers Elementary School, and I'm here with my AP, Dana Schwartz. And the purpose of coming here today is to thank you personally, thank Mayor Emanuel, Dr. Jackson, Ms. McDade, and the entire Board of Education for approving the capital improvement project that will be providing the students, families, and the community of Rogers School with the much-needed annex addition. Rogers School came together with the incredible support of our alderman, Deborah Silverstein, and our network chief, Eduardo Cesario. We were able to voice our overcrowding concerns, and thankfully you recognized our needs. We are committed to utilizing this new annex and creating an educational space that all our students and families will benefit from. We take great pride in our incredibly diverse neighborhood school, and this addition would allow us to provide more services to the entire school and neighborhood community. So once again, thank you for your commitment and all that you do for CPS students.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please, Mr. Schwartz.
Thank you for, are you going to talk about the same thing?
I'm not going for 2 extra minutes. I'm speaking on behalf of someone else. Thanks. The reason I'm here today, I'm here with the assistant principal, Amit Thacker. I'm talking on behalf of Principal Otis Dunson from George Armstrong School. He couldn't be here today because of a family medical emergency. On behalf of Principal Otis Dunson, who couldn't be here, we would like to thank Rahm Emanuel, the Chicago Board of Education, Dr. Janice Jackson, in collaboration with Alderman Silverstein and Chief Eduardo Cesario, for the addition of the playground space that will provide safe place for our students to play, learn, and grow. From over 1,400 students who will benefit from this playground on a daily basis, thank you, and we're grateful for everything that you guys continue to do. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz.
Arnie, you're not going to get a pay raise.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Shaw. I'm a proud CPS graduate, first and foremost. Secondly, I'm the very proud principal at Prosser Career Academy in the Belmont-Cragen neighborhood. I wanted to come out here personally, and I wanted to thank the Board of Education because you've made it possible for a school that has existed in that community for years and years. I grew up a mile and a half east of Prosser. And over the years, I've always admired how Prosser is a bedrock in the community. You as a board now with the capital improvement funds are going to allow our career and technical education wing to be updated. A need that is It's been there for years, but it's going to happen. My excitement at the prospect of this, my excitement, the community's excitement, when you talk to the students, you talk to the parents, it's palpable, it's real. I get emotional about it because, again, I grew up in the area, I feel for the area, and I am very, very tied to that neighborhood and to that school. And I wanted to reach out again to Dr. Jackson, to the board, to the mayor, to our chief, Randall Josserand, and I wanted to thank you all because you are making a tremendous difference in the lives of those students, over 1,300 students. The improvement to the CTE wing, the improvement to the science labs will help with engagement, it'll help with achievement. I just wanted to tell you this personally. And so thank you all for what you're doing for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Shaw.
very much.
Our next speaker, please. As he approaches the microphone, the next speakers will then be speaker number 19, Stephanie Gill, followed by speaker 35, Tiffany Perez. We'll have speaker 21, Yolanda Moros, 22, Melissa Ramirez Cooper, and 23, Lou Peister. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. George Chapane, and I'm the proud principal of Ernst Pressing Elementary School. Pressing is a thriving, low-income neighborhood school with over 700 students who represent 24 languages and come from 37 countries from around the world. 1/3 of our student body are newcomers and English language learners. Our school has a strong international focus, and we are proud to support our strong, diverse community. We are a school community that embraces our differences as we support our city and country. We are excited about all the great things that have been happening at our school, and we invite everyone to be a part of our school community. Pressing School is a level 1+ school. I want to personally thank Mayor Rahm Emanuel, Dr. Janice Jackson, Ms. LaTanya McDade, and the Chicago Board of Education for the new addition to our school and our school improvements. This will help relieve the severe overcrowding we are experiencing at Pressing School. Our enrollment has increased by over 70 students in the last school year alone. Minosh Mistry and also the Chicago Public Building Commission have also done a great job of keeping the construction on schedule. Also, our school was recently broken into. I want to thank the Chicago Police Department for their swift and effective action. In addition, I want to thank Ms. Jadine Chow from Safety and Security for addressing the needs of our school and providing external and internal security cameras. Finally, I want to thank Alderman John Arena and my network chief, Ms. Julie McGlade, for their continuing support to make Pressing a great place for all students to receive a superior quality education. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Chapin. Our next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Stephanie Gill. My name is Stephanie Gill. I am here today to speak in support of Moving Everest Charter School opening a second location. I believe a second location is a good idea because it provides a choice for parents and caregivers who are seeking quality education for their children. It is comforting for parents like myself to know that a good neighborhood school exists with teachers who believe all students deserve a valuable education. Moving Everest will provide an opportunity for all children to receive a quality education free of charge. Students and families' lives will be transformed by the holistic teaching at Moving Everest that develops character, teaches integrity, and empowers students to own their learning experience. In addition, opening a second location will bring employment opportunities to the community. I hope Moving Everest can help my family by providing a safe, nurturing, and fun place for my child to learn. My hope is that Moving Everest can help my family by providing affordable and quality education. Lastly, I hope that Moving Everest can continue to do what we are already doing at home, which is creating a love for learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gill. Our next speaker, please, Tiffany Perez. Last call. Moving on to the next speaker, we'll have Yolanda Moros.
Good afternoon. My name is Yolanda Luna Miraz. I'm the principal at Decatur Classical School. On July 6th, CPS announced that Decatur would receive a physical expansion that would allow us to add 7th and 8th grade. I would like to thank Mayor Rahm Emanuel, Dr. Jackson, Alderman Silverstein, President Clark, and the members of the board for granting us the ability to now educate students from kindergarten to 8th grade. I'm here joined by some students, team members, and a parent to simply express our gratitude and share what this news means to our school. For our students, it means they will no longer have to agonize over finding a new school to complete their 7th and 8th grade. The stress and pressure to secure perfect grades and test scores at the young age of 10 is gone. Now students and parents can rest easy knowing they can finish their elementary years at Decatur. For myself and the team of educators, the expansion will allow us to grow programming and enrich the educational experience for our students. We can offer art, Latin, dance without displacing any more classrooms. Teachers no longer have to teach from carts, in the hallways, and thankfully my office. They'll have the necessary space to create the learning environment that encourages our students to be curious and fosters a love of learning. We have the opportunity to design a middle school that prepares students both academically and emotionally for high school. On behalf of our students, parents, and educators, thank you for your investment in the children of Decatur, both current and future. I'm under time. With permission, I have one of Dr. Jackson's biggest fans here. He'd like to say hello.
Hi, everybody, and hi, Dr. Jackson. It's me, Charlie. Nice to see you again. I want to give you a huge thank you for giving us some much-needed resources to accomplish things we can never have or do before, such as a cafeteria, a gym, art and music rooms to encourage creativity, and private spaces for restorative practices. Thank you.
Pretty good. This is why we do this. Right? So pleasant.
It's going to be a hard act to follow.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Melissa Ramirez Cooper, and I'm the new Director of Communication at the Illinois Network of Charter Schools. While I attended a CPS school as an elementary student, I am new to the public education sector professionally, and it's been a privilege to witness the deep commitment so many of us have in ensuring that all children are provided an education that is student-centered, values diversity and inclusion, and that enables our students to persist and succeed. In these few months, I've come to learn that fundamentally, we all want what is best for our students. And as a parent of a third grader, my goal is to raise my daughter to be a compassionate, wise, confident, and courageous human being. And that's done in partnership with educators and administrators who work every day in creating environments where our children can thrive both academically and as young people. And that's what charter public schools do. Charter public schools are neighborhood schools started by extraordinary people across this city who create the kind of schools we want for our children. And to be able to do that, charter public schools rely on equitable funding. Children depend on us, and the decisions we make impact them daily. And this is why we are eager to continue conversations and participate in working groups charged with determining equitable funding structures. It is crucial that those who gather at these tables continue to value collaboration, cooperation, working to ensure that not only are schools funded fairly, but provided added clarity with funding amounts and funding predictability. Charter public school leaders work tirelessly to meet the educational needs of their students, and funding certainty enables teachers to put children first. There is room for innovative ways in teaching our children, ways that embrace who they are today and celebration of who they become tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Thank you for your comments. As our next speaker approaches, Mr. Peister, I'd like to call speaker number 26, please. Crystal Bell, followed by 32, Jennifer Dixon, 33, Lori Zamey, and 36, Kika Aceves. Mr. Peister?
Good afternoon. First of all, there was, at the last board meeting, there was a discussion about the lead pipes and the lead and all that kind of stuff. And I was anticipating that there would be some report on that. You guys were very interested in that, and I don't remember a report. Okay. The other thing I want to point out is this conversation between Dr. Jackson and Mr. Sharkey. In the old days, there would be a monthly meeting between the hierarchy of the CPS and the hierarchy of the CTU. It was called the General Superintendent's Meeting or Strategic Bargaining. And that would be an opportunity to discuss the shopping list of things that the union brings here, or sound bites, instead of sitting down with Dr. Jackson and the CEO and the education officer and discuss those things, because you need to work out. My original agenda had to do with the hotline that I mentioned about special needs, about dirty buildings and all that the union and the board communicate back and forth, so 6 months don't go by before someone gets up and says, my kid hasn't been served, or there's a dirty building. Those things should be worked out in a matter of days. On my shopping list from last time, I would like the staffing issues. How are we doing with school nurses? How are we doing with social workers? You were adding, do you actually have the bodies? Librarians, instead of cutting, add. Clerks in the high school. And the minority hiring. How are we doing with African Americans, Latinos? How are we doing with Asians? I would like Dr.
Mr.
Jackson
Peister?
to respond now or at some future meeting how those things are working. I know it is complicated and difficult to get the special need. You've added special need positions. Do you actually have the bodies at this point? How are we doing? I remember at the last board meeting, the person from special needs talked about trying to find the bodies. How are we doing? What will we be on first day of school for those children who need those services? I would appreciate if Dr. Jackson would respond in some way to what I just said.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Peister.
Could
Our
you
next-
respond?
We don't have the numbers now.
Okay, you know. All right.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please, Crystal Bell. Last call. Moving on to the next speaker, Jennifer Dixon.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Dixon, and I am the proud principal of Palmer Elementary School. Palmer is located in the North Mayfair community and serves 800 students speaking over 20 different languages. I am here today to express my sincere gratitude for the facilities improvements occurring at Palmer, including an annex and a new roof. Built in 1925 with the first students arriving in 1926, Palmer has been a neighborhood gem for thousands of students over the past 92 years. Palmer is a source of pride for our community. Hardworking and dedicated teachers, staff, and families have worked together to get more students on grade level each year, continuing to achieve a 1+ rating for the past 3 years. We are a winning school, winning the International Literacy Association Exemplary Reading Program Award, the Teach for America Schools to Learn From Award, the Alliance for a Healthier Generation, America's Healthiest School Award, and our 3rd grade teacher, Miss Dolan, winning the Golden Apple Award just last year. We struggled watching our beloved school crumble around us. Thanks to the board members, Dr. Jackson, Chief McDade, Chief McGlade, Mayor Emanuel, and Alderman Lorino. This is no longer the case. The facilities plan for Palmer gives us hope in knowing that we will be able to continue to educate and inspire students in our renewed world-class, safe facility. Your support means the world to us, and we are eternally grateful. I invite you to come to Palmer anytime. Join us for our Dance Fridays in particular. After the announcements, our kids, we play music on the intercom, and all the kids dance in the hallway. That's part of our moving minutes. In particular, to see our loving community in action.
Ms. Dixon?
We are so very thankful. I conclude.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please. Can you please state your name?
Good afternoon. I am Lori Zamey, and I'm the very proud principal and parent of a student at Pierce Elementary School, which is also my neighborhood school and was the neighborhood school when I was growing up, but I did not attend it. And I just wanted to come and thank all of you today, especially the board members, for providing the capital resources to replace our turf. I submitted pictures earlier which showed the conditions of the turf and the flooding and then the icing which happened. And I think a lot of people question whether or not turfs are needed and why replacing of turf when we have so much need, in a district. But these were very hazardous conditions that our students were walking to school every day in when there was the flooding outside and the heavy rains. And so it was definitely very much needed, and we are very appreciative. I'd also like to say hello to Ms. Ward, who was the teacher floor leader when I was a student at Disney Magnet School way back in the 80s, yes. And then I also wanted to thank the board as well for the capital improvements that are going into Sen High School, which is our feeder school. We're an IB school. We have a pre-K through 12th grade continuum of IB education. We are very proud of our partnership with Sen. I am very excited that in 2 years my daughter will be attending Sen High School, and having the capital improvements are really needed to get our students to stay in the community and stay in their neighborhood school and not have to travel, as we've heard multiple times today, an hour across the city, as I did as a high school student. So thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your summer.
Thank you, Ms. Amy. As the next speaker approaches, I'll call speaker number 38, Joseph Space. We then have designated speakers number 53, James Durrell, followed by speaker number 60, Terrence Ling. And then we will call speaker 41, Fawn Pochel, 46, Cindy Soto, and 49, Dan Roller. Thank you. Please state your name.
Hi, hello. Thank you for having me. My name is Kika. I'm not even sure if I'm in the right place or doing the right thing. I'm not. I left Chicago public school system I was 11 years old. I was in the 6th grade. Of course, this was in the 70s. This was way before anybody was aware of, hey, wait a minute, are you being beaten or abused? And the reason that I'm here today is because of a conversation that I had the honor of having with Dr. Maya Angelou. And that conversation was like back in, I want to say, 2007 when I was living in Newark, excuse me. And I don't know if any of you recall that the doctor had a radio station on Oprah's Sirius Radio, whatever, and she had sent out a message that she wanted to talk about grandmothers. And so I sat down and I wrote her a letter. My grandmother came to this country with no education, no money. She had like 10 rotten little brothers and sisters. She had a father that had gotten thrown out of Mexico because he killed too many people. She came over here, and in spite of all of that, she still opened up one of the first Afro-Latino, Afro-Mexicanos restaurant bar in South Chicago, which is where I was born and raised. And in that conversation, Dr. Angelou spoke about how significant it is, and we both agreed how significant it is that until we move past color, and I'm sorry, but especially in the city of Chicago, there's no solution. We have our children who don't understand each other. We have our African Americans that all live there, our Puerto Ricans all live over there, our Irish people live all over there. And the one thing that Dr. Angelou and I agreed with, because she was a fan of my boss, who is Johnny Pacheco, creator of the Fania All-Stars in New York City. Willie Colon was just here at Millennium Park.
Ms. Aceves, can you please conclude?
Yes. I don't know what to offer you other than I have all of these Grammy Award-winning artists from New York. Arturo O'Farrill was Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra, 6-time Grammy Award. My friend Oscar Hernandez and his Spanish Harlem Orchestra, 3-time Grammy Award winners. He was also the musical director for Gloria and Emilio Estefan's play. He was a musical director for Paul Simon. And I have all of this to offer you and to say, how could I, if I can reach one student in Chicago and say, you know what, you don't have to go that route, then I've done my job.
Thank you, Ms. Aceves.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Chief McDade, I don't know who we could put her in touch with, but anyone that's offering to provide opportunity and talent, I'm a strong believer and supporter of the arts. We ought to figure out how to take advantage of that.
I could tell you.
But you have to do it. You have to do it offline. But you can tell me one thing. What's the name of that restaurant that was on the south east side?
It's called Las Puertas de Veracruz.
I mean, where was it?
It was on 90th and you know what OLG is?
I
What is
do.
it, Burley?
Yeah, I used to live relatively close. I'm just curious because
that
mean,
was-
it
and-
sounded familiar when you were describing it.
Exactly.
But
And my great-grandfather, my grandmother's father, went to prison in Crown Point because he killed my grandfather.
that history is extraordinary. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, please. Speaker 38, Joseph Pace.
My name is Joseph Pace. I'm a special education classroom assistant, formerly positioned at Skinner North. February this past school year, I raised issues with my building administration on how they handled my middle of the year evaluation. They both admitted that they didn't observe any of my performance. And so my scores on the evaluation, though, while they were proficient, they were arbitrary. I raised that issue. As a result of raising that issue, a month later, those two administrators colluded and conspired to set me up for false allegations of misconduct of inflicting corporal punishment against one of my students. Fortunately for me, the incident was caught on tape and I was cleared. Otherwise, I would have been facing a level 4 misconduct violation on my disciplinary record. Make no mistake about it, my allegations are serious. I believe that those administrators engaged in retaliatory acts of disciplinary actions against me. In my mind, those administrators conducted themselves in a very predatory manner as it relates to the students. So I'm here to bring this to the attention of the Board of Education and call the Board of Education to action to honor its commitment of protecting students. You can't be serious about your commitment of protecting students if you do not investigate this matter. I've heard many ways in which the school system plans on holding teachers, seekers, and everyone else's feet to the fire, and all I hear about when it comes to principals is training. They need to be held accountable as well.
Thank you, Mr. Pace.
Thank you.
As the next speakers approach the podium, Mr. President, I'll call Speaker 41, please, Fawn Paschal, Cindy Soto, and Dan Rollo, followed by Speaker 44, Sharon Beebe, 45, Wallace Bradley, and 54, Ali Toby. Thank you. Can you please state your name?
James Durrell. Good morning, everybody. I'm a teacher at Marshall High School. This upcoming school year will mark my 15th year as a teacher there. It's the only place I've ever taught, only place I've ever wanted to teach. I'm a highly rated teacher. I'm on the ILT and on the LSC. I'm also the freshman grade level lead. Our freshman on track rate was 96% last year. Just yesterday, I helped one of our recently graduated seniors acquire books for his first semester of college. I say these things so that you'll know that everything I do for Marshall and to improve student outcomes. I think one of the biggest obstacles to sustained success at Marshall has been inconsistency at the administrative level. Every time we start making progress and getting the squirrel headed in the right direction, we get a new principal. Happens every 2 years. And I'm here today because I've heard there's some consideration being given to replacing our principal 2 weeks before the school year. This consideration, I understand, is based off some allegations that were made at a prior board meeting by another member of the LSC, and he has every right to make those allegations, but I want to say that he's not speaking on behalf of the LSC. I'm an LSC member. Those allegations, in my opinion, are false. Our principal, in my opinion, has never cursed at staff, disrespected staff, or cursed at students. If he had, I'd blow the whistle on that, and I would know about it. Students would have told me. So I just wanted to say that I believe those allegations are false, and it would be a big mistake to replace the principal at this time.
Chief Madade, I assume you're aware of this.
Yes, I am aware of this, and there has not been any considerations to replace. What we did respond to at the last board meeting was that we would fully investigate, which we have, and did not find any behaviors that were unprofessional based on the statements from staff as well as a few students that were able to provide some statements that were around for the summer. So that no such decision has been made.
That's reassuring. Thank you.
Thank you. There is one additional speaker, Mr. President. Speaker 60, Terrence.
Are you speaking on the same subject?
Yes.
And I don't want to cut you off. You're perfectly up, but did you hear the answer you just received?
Yes.
Are you satisfied?
I still want to make a.
You go right ahead.
Thank you.
You took the time to come down. You have the right to speak.
My name is Terrence Lang. I'm a teacher at John Marshall High School, as well as a member of the local school council at John Marshall High School. I have never missed a LSC meeting since I've been appointed as an LSC member this year, and I rise to express my sincere support behind Principal Jamie Poole and his vision for John Marshall High School. Let me express there has never been an LSC meeting where we have discussed or made mention of removing Principal Poole. Those allegations that were brought were not supported by the LSC. We also had a meeting with the LSC in which we made clear that those statements were not statements on behalf of the LSC. We also had an investigation that was done by the network in which they met with stakeholders over the summer, in which those allegations once again were proven not to be accurate or even truthful. So we stand in 100% support of our principal. It was mentioned in the board meeting previously. Once again, I'll stress that they were speaking on behalf of the LSC and alumni. That is not accurate. So I just wanted to make sure that you're clear about that and understand that we must build better bridges for success for our students, our staff, our community, as well as our partners. And that will be done with Principal Poole leading the charge for Marshall Metro High School.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Our next speaker, please, Fawn Pichelle, last call. Cindy Soto, last call. Dan Roller, last call. We then have Sharon Beebe.
Greetings. My name is Sharon Jones-Bibby, principal of Doolittle Elementary School in Bronzeville. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you today to Dr. Janice Jackson, Chief Latanya McDade, Mr. Frank Clark, Rahm Emanuel, the mayor in his absence, and my chief, Felicia Sanders, in her absence. I am here to thank you guys for working so tirelessly on the capital investments that will ensure equity and financial stability to the students in CPS. As the leader of Doolittle Elementary School, I am humbled and excited by the operational and capital investments that we'll receive this year in the form of modern computer resources, which will impact our technology, as well as a full-time social worker who will support our social-emotional learning initiatives at Doolittle. We are excited, and as we have sat by and waited and watched you guys work arduously, we have to extend a thank you. As we've waited, we've been hopeful, and we knew that a group as astute as you are, we would have a change. It brings to mind, in closing, one of my favorite quotes by author Harriet Beecher Stowe, and that is to never give up. For at the time you decide to give up, that is when the tide will change. As we waited, we watched the tide change. I am excited about being a part of that tide change for the students of CPS. Thanks, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Ms. Beebe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before the next speaker comes up, Dan Roller was called earlier. If you can please proceed.
Good afternoon, and thank you. My name is Dr. Daniel Roller, and I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you in support of Indigenous Peoples Day for CPS. Many cities and states since 1992 have adopted Indigenous Peoples Day as a way of recognizing the important contributions and inherent value of Indigenous people in the story of our nation. Here are some of these cities and states that have adopted Indigenous Peoples Day since 1992. with many more working to join. Berkeley, California, Santa Cruz, California, Grand Rapids and Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Seattle, Washington, San Fernando, California, St. Paul, Minnesota, the states of Alaska, Minnesota, and Vermont, Phoenix, Arizona, Boulder, Denver, and Durango, Colorado, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Asheville, North Carolina, Spokane, Washington, Madison, Wisconsin, Ithaca, New York, Oberlin, Ohio, Nashville, Tennessee, Austin, Texas, Salt Lake City, Utah, San Francisco, California, and many more to come. I also wanted to share with you a timeline of some of the actions on this matter so far in our state. On September 14th, 2016, Chicago City Council unanimously passed a resolution recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day 50-0. In April 2017, 3 Uplift High School students spoke to you about making a name change to the CPS school calendars. On May 2017, 2 4th grade students from Hammond Elementary spoke to you requesting this change. In December 2017, the Chicago's Teachers Union passed a resolution in support of Indigenous Peoples Day. I am here to speak to you today with 3 of my colleagues.
Mr. Ruler,
Yeah.
can you please conclude?
Yes. So we have 550 signatures, another 85 online, and we're glad to come back to you and speak to you again. And we'd ask you for any advice you have in this matter. So.
Thank you, Mr. Ruler. Our next speaker will be Speaker 54, Ali Alatobi.
All right, so before we begin, I'd like to let you all know my piece is about 2 minutes and 30 seconds long. Is that all right?
Mr. President, please proceed.
Okay. Hello, my name is Ali Aladbi, and I am the #1 student at Simeon Career Academy and representative of the student body. As many of you know, our principal, Dr. Sheldon House, has been reassigned. The student body, administration, coaches, and teachers have truly amalgamated to advocate for our principal and let the world know that we feel that he should remain Simeon's principal. I am here today to address several concerns that we have and to continue the fight for Dr. House. First, Dr. House himself has nurtured a multitude of programs and clubs that leaders among the student body have started. We would like to ensure that these programs will continue to be properly supported so that they can grow to fulfill the vision that the founders had when they started these programs. Second, Dr. House has been a major factor in many students' college application and access processes, as he has helped many students build relationships with colleges and universities and acquire scholarships. Speaking from my own experience, he took us, the principal scholars, on college tours, which elicited feelings of excitement, enthusiasm, and eagerness towards college. Many Simeon graduates that attended college wouldn't have even considered college as a post-secondary path without his mentorship. Without him, we worry that some connections and opportunities will be lost, inhibiting many students' potential for going to college and getting as many scholarships as possible. Excellence is our only option is a phrase that we heard every morning over the intercom during announcements. This inspired all of us at Simeon to put forth our best effort day in and day out. His consistent affection for the school and all those in it has been reflected in his words, habits, and actions. Every day, he'd stand in the hallway and greet every student that passed and ensure that we got to class. When our last class was dismissed, he didn't stay in his office. He stood outside and made sure that we all left school or got to our after-school program safely. Under Dr. House's leadership, Simeon has excelled in both sports and academics and risen to the status of a level 1 school. I was once very timid and introverted. From the first time I walked through the doors of Simeon Career Academy to now, Dr. House has made me feel welcomed. His constant support and attention has played an important role in my success in Simeon, and that has resulted in tremendous personal character development and growth. It is imperative that we ensure the continuous success of Simeon Career Academy, and Dr. House remaining our principal is paramount in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alatobi.
Thank you very much. Your advocacy is quite admirable.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. They do have an additional speaker. Speaker 45, please, Wallace Bradley.
Yes, good morning. Well, good afternoon. First of all, I want to say to God be the glory. To stand next to this young man, his students, and Miss Berry is very significant to me. I understand what he's saying. I was the LSC chair that went and brought Sheldon House to Simeon. At that time, as y'all know, Simeon was at the bottom. My son graduated from there, Carmiel Bradley. He went on to Eastern Illinois University because House follows his students through schools. He ended up getting his master's. When I saw on the web page that someone from Finger was picked for Simeon, I was glad to know when I came into this door that that was not the truth, because I had got a promise from the school board or its representatives that y'all would allow the LSC to pick from amongst 3 candidates. We need House back in that school. The community want him back at that school. When you see police officers and firemen that bring their children to that school, when I came there and I saw a freshman crying because they want House to help them like it helped their other siblings, when you see grandmothers, when you see a whole full community where there's gangs in the community. There's a lot of those individuals that got out of gangs and went to school. I'm here standing in support of House, and I wish that whatever the investigation is, that you will conclude it so that he can be there for the freshman class that's going to be there. And for the community to know, right now with all the senseless shootings and killings,
Mr. Bradley?
we need someone that a community recognizes and identifies with helping to save their life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Bradley. Moving on to the next speakers, Mr. President, we have speaker number 52, please, May Toy, followed by speaker 56, Sabrina Wilkins Brown, and the last speaker, speaker 58, Nadine Delanato.
Thank you. My name is May Toy. I'm president of the Skinner Park Advisory Council and Friends of Loomis Street Gardens. You should have gotten handouts. I hope you did get handouts. That's coming to you right now.
Please proceed, Ms. Toy.
I want to speak about the fact that Whitney Young currently is constructing a $4.3 million artificial turf field and track that was funded by TIF funds. We found out in the community about it when the construction fence went up. Unfortunately, despite the fact that it was funded with local funds, no one in the community knew about this, and I think that's a disgrace. I do not understand how you can ask for TIF funding, and yet no one in the community knew what it was going to be used for. The fence itself encroaches onto the Loomis Street Community Gardens, which is depicted here as well. I asked Dr. Kenner immediately to come out and say, what is going on? She told me they're building this field. I found out later on that it was funded with TIF funding. My concern is that I had to file a FOIA to try and get more information about it. I asked for a community meeting, nothing. Alderman Burnett asked for a community meeting, nothing. I think that part of the problem with a selective enrollment school is that there's a disconnect between the school and the community. For the past 17 years, I have advocated for improvements to the park, Skinner Park. It serves both Whitney Young and Skinner West Elementary. And the fields that they're being improved upon now was given to CPS by the Park District at a cost of $25 million. I think that the part of the problem is that I don't understand how you can use community money, but yet nobody in the community knew what was going on. So I'm asking, one, that there be a community benefits agreement that preserves the right of the community, like using our tax dollars to pay for these improvements. Two, that there's actually a community meeting that shows the community what is going on with this field. I found out from Joseph Misority, who who sent me an email saying that the fence does encroach onto our garden area and it was moved back. However, it was not moved back. Capital Improvement, Jack O'Connell, met with me and said, you know what? It does
Thank you, Ms. Toy.
encroach, but they're not going to move it back.
Thank
I'm
you, Ms.
asking
Toy.
for a resolution here. Thank you.
And Arnie, this is an issue I know you're aware of, correct?
Yes, I'm aware of this. I know there were some efforts made to mitigate this. I'll follow up with my team to make sure that we worked. There's about a month and a half left of construction on the field, but we'll make sure we look into this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, members of the board, CEO Jackson. My name is Sabrina Wilkins Brown, and I'm an attorney, and I'm appearing here before you today on behalf of my client who has an employment matter that's pending before this board for consideration. I have provided to the board a position statement explaining and supporting my client's position.
Let me just stop you for one moment. I'm going to let you continue. If this is a legal issue and specific employment matter, is it an appropriate thing to be addressing in the public?
It is not inappropriate for an advocate to come and make a statement about a pending matter before the board.
Thank you, Joe. Please proceed.
Thank you. I will be brief. I'm simply here to make an appeal to the board, a request that the board not rubber stamp any prior recommendation for discipline that was offered or recommended. Instead, I would ask the board to make a fair and honest assessment of the position statement of my client in consideration of the determination of his employment. This, statutorily, you have the authority to do so, and I simply ask that, again, you make a fair and honest consideration of his position in light of all the evidence. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. And our last speaker, please. Nadine Delanato.
Well, it's true, you saved the best for last. We are here as community and professional liaisons to work with you and to ask the question that we hope we leave with the answer that we came for. The topic is Network 12 Leadership Change. Why was the chief days, why was he removed? Jeff has been connected and effective in our community for over 10 years. He's been motivational and inspirational to our students, to our families, especially our black families, our males. He has saved personally 2 of my family members and given them mentors that followed them through college. We have supported the school when he was at Coles, the network. We wanted him to stay at Coles, but we knew that he should be duplicated and replicated. So when he got the position as chief, we said, okay, like an eagle, we have to let him fly. Just 2 years, and he has done a remarkable, still reaching out to the community, saving lives, and I'm sure the mayor and chief of police, Eddie Johnson, if they were here and gave you the statistics of Network 12 and the involvement, that they don't have to spend as much time not just academically, but they go out, and he's a black man that has survived Chicago.
Ms. Delanato, can you please conclude?
So we know why you hired him, because we know his credentials. But why was he changed from Network 12? That's our question.
Thank you. Chief McDade, do you have anything you want to add to this?
Unfortunately, we can't discuss, moves, employee moves, but Jeffrey Dace is valued as a leader in the district. He is going to continue to serve in a critical capacity in the district.
And thank you for that. And we just hope that you utilize his talents for mentoring and that we don't lose that great black man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. This concludes public participation.
Board members, any questions or comments on any of the comments during public participation? Okay, hearing none, this concludes our public participation session. Did someone just say something?
She just said thank you. Thank you.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, Board Member Hines, do we have a motion?
Yes. I move for the passage of motion number 18-0822-M01 and the commencement of a closed session to consider matters permitted under Section 2C of the Open Meetings Act, subsection 1, 2, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11, and 21 as specified in the motion.
Board Member Ward.
I second the motion.
Thank you. I'll proceed with a roll call. Member Furlong.
Yes.
Vice President Guzman.
Yes.
Member Dr. Hines.
Yes.
Member Ward.
Yes.
And President Clark.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
The meeting will go into closed session. We're going to reconvene our board meeting. Madam Secretary, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will start with closed session items from the General Counsel, and I will begin with new and continued council retentions. These items do require a vote. The first report is the Law Office of Linda K. Hogan for new. The second report, the law firm Nielsen, Sehi, and Antas PC for new. The third report, law firm Brothers and Thompson PC for continued retention. The fourth report, law firm of Leahy, Eisenberg, and Frankel LTD for continued retention as well. And Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you. I'll proceed with a roll call. Member Furlong.
Yes.
Vice President Guzman.
Yes.
Member Dr. Hines.
Yes.
Member Ward.
Yes.
And President Clark.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays. I will continue with settlements, Mr. President, and these items do require a vote. The first report is the workers' compensation payment for lump sum settlement for Margot Franco, case number 06WZ011366 and 06WC011367. The second report is personal injury, authorized payment of settlement for Carly Pelez, case number 15L004826, and the third report, approved payment of proposed settlement regarding JD. Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
If there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll continue with law personnel matters, and these items do require a vote. And we have the first report, transfer and appoint Senior Assistant Deputy General Counsel, Department of Law, Libby N. Massey. The second report is appoint Assistant General Counsel, Department of Law for Shamika E. Sanford. And the third report is appoint Assistant General Counsel, Department of Law for Courtney Delgaitis. Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
If there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will continue with items from the Chief Executive Officer. These items do require a vote. We have the first report for talent recommendations, transfer and appoint Chief of Schools, effective July 22nd, 2018, and ratify all actions taken as Chief of Schools since July 22nd, 2018 for Julie McGlade. The second report is transfer and appoint Chief of Schools effective July 22nd, 2018, and ratify all lawful actions taken as Chief of Schools since July 22nd for Julius Lawson. The third report is transfer and appoint Chief of Schools effective July 22nd, 2018, and ratify all lawful actions taken as Chief of Schools since July 22nd, 2018 for Shanitha Parks. The fourth report is transfer and appoint Chief of Schools effective July 22nd, 2018, and ratify all lawful actions taken as Chief of Schools since July 22nd for Laura Lamone. The fifth report is transfer and appoint Chief of Schools effective August 5th, 2018, and ratify all lawful actions taken as Chief of Schools since August 5th, 2018 for Randall Jostrand. The sixth report is transfer and appoint chief of schools effective July 22nd, 2018, and ratify all lawful actions taken as chief of schools since July 22nd for Megan Hogard. And the seventh report is approve appointment of chief of schools effective September 10th, 2018 for Eric Pruitt. Mr. President, I'll continue with principal contracts renewals for ALSCs. We then have one warning resolution for Olayinka Mohern Minta, tenured teacher assigned to Team Inglewood Community Academy High School. And Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
If there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll continue with other matters for non-resident tuition. These items do require a vote. The first report is adopt finding that pupil is a non-resident of the city of Chicago, indebted to the Chicago Public Schools for non-resident tuition. The second report is adopt finding that pupils are non-residents of the city of Chicago, indebted to the Chicago Public Schools for non-resident tuition. Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
If there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Frank, can I just ask a question? It looks on our agenda like you skipped one. Did you skip one?
No, that item was not moving forward.
It was, oh, okay. Oh, I didn't catch that.
Thank you, Member Furlong. I'll continue, Mr. President, with items from the board. These items do require a vote. We have the first report, resolution by the Board of Education of the City of Chicago regarding the dismissal of Olayinka Mohern Minta, tenured teacher assigned to Team Inglewood Community Academy High School. Mr. President, for the record, I would like to note that this report also adopts a supplemental opinion and order under separate cover. I'll continue with the second report, resolution approving the Chief Executive Officer's recommendation to dismiss educational support personnel. And the third report is the resolution approving the Chief Executive Officer's recommendation to dismiss probationary appointed teachers. And for the record, I would like to note that on August 17, 2018, the board members and the Office of the Board received the CEO's recommendation to dismiss probationary appointed teachers pursuant to Board 04-1 and 105 ILCS 5/34-84. Her recommendation included the names of the teachers affected and the reasons, and she also noted that the teachers affected will be notified of their dismissal after adoption of the resolution. And the fourth report is the resolution authorizing honorable termination of a regularly certified and appointed teacher. And Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
If there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you,
President
Mr.
Clark,
President.
can I ask a question? Because I'm confused. Back here on page 10, there was a warning resolution for.
That one was.
That was the one that was scratched?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
It's not scratched out on mine.
Yeah, that is not moving forward.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We're just keeping on top of you.
I appreciate that. Thank you for checking.
They dismissed.
Well, everyone will know that all of the board members read this.
Thank you.
Okay.
Where's the?
It's page 12.
Continue.
So we'll continue.
it's not
We're continuing with the motion for Vice President Guzman. Vice President Guzman?
Yes, I move that the board adopt the minutes of the closed session meeting of July 25th, 2018 pursuant to Section 2.06 of the Open Meetings Act. Board members reviewed these minutes and determined that the need for confidentiality exists. Therefore, the minutes of the closed session meeting held on July 25th, 2018 shall be maintained as confidential and not available for public inspection.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you. I'll proceed with a roll call. Member Furlong?
Yes.
Vice President Guzman?
Yes.
Member Dr. Hines?
Yes.
Member Ward?
Yes.
And President Clark?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays. Thank you, and I believe Board Member Furlong has a motion.
I move that the record of proceedings of the regular board meeting of July 25th, 2018, prepared by the board secretary be approved, and that such records of proceedings be posted on the Chicago Board of Education website in accordance with Section 2.06B of the Open Meetings Act.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
I'll proceed with a roll call. Member Furlong?
Yes.
Vice President Guzman?
Yes.
Member Dr. Hines?
Yes.
Member Ward?
Yes.
And President Clark?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays. Mr. President, I will now continue with the executive real estate items, and these items do require a vote. The first report is disposition of bids received for the sale of property located at 1 1326 South Avers Avenue, former Henson Elementary School. The second report is disposition of bids received for the sale of property located at 412 South Keeler Avenue, former Melody Elementary School. The third report is the disposition of bids received for the sale of property located at 11725 South Perry Avenue, former Songhai Elementary School. And the fourth report is disposition of bids received for the sale of property commonly known as 7025 South Princeton, former Yale Elementary School. And the fifth report is amend Board Report 17-1025-OP1, approve entering into a shared use agreement and temporary construction license agreement with Inner City Education and Recreation Foundation for athletic facilities improvements and programs at Smith Elementary School. And Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
If there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I will continue with items on the public agenda and only read the board report numbers. Since the titles and board reports appeared on the public agenda, I will begin with two resolutions that do not require a vote. We have RS1 and RS2. Mr. President, these items just need to be accepted by the board.
Please mark received and filed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll continue with an additional resolution and policies that do require a vote, and we have RS3, PO1, and for the record, Mr. President, I would like to note that PO1 has been revised and the final will be in the action. We then move on to PO2, and also, Mr. President, for the record, I would like to note that PO2 has been revised and the final will be in the action. We then have PO3, moving on to PO4, and Mr. President, for the record, I would like to note that PO4 has been revised and the final will be in the action as well. Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
If there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will now continue with the communication. This item does not require a vote. CO1 is the communication regarding the location of the board meeting for September 26, 2018, and it reads, this is to advise that the regular meeting of the Board of Education scheduled for Wednesday, September 26, 2018, will be held at the CPS Loop Office, 42 West Madison Street, Garden Level Board Room. The board meeting will begin at 10:30 a.m. Public participation guidelines are available on www.cpsboe.org or by calling the board office at 773-553-1600. For the September 26, 2018 board meeting, advance registration to speak and observe will be available beginning Monday, September 24th at 10:30 a.m. and will close on Tuesday, September 25th at 5 p.m. or until all slots are filled. You can advance register during the registration period by the following methods: online, by phone, or in person. And the public participation segment of the meeting will begin as indicated on the meeting agenda and proceed for no more than the 60 registered speakers. Mr. President, I will continue with additional items on the agenda that do require a vote, and we have EX1. We then have EX2, 3, 4, moving on to PR 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
If there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll continue with additional items that do not require a vote, and we have EX5, 6, and AR1. Mr. President, these items just need to be accepted by the board.
Please mark received and filed.
Thank you, Mr. President, and there are no further items on the public agenda.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.